that have joined us and those listening at home tonight. I declare the meeting open at 7:07 p.m. Just before I start tonight's meeting formally, I just want to acknowledge that this week's Harmony Week, and just to make note that I'm really proud that Bayside is a welcoming community that really looks at, focuses and embraces on diversity and works hard to create an inclusive environment. So there's a number of celebrations for Harmony Week, and we've got something that's happening tomorrow. Okay, members of the public that have registered to speak by audiovisual link on an agenda item are asked to keep your microphone muted and video off, please, until I invite you to speak. Speakers will not be able to present material as part of their speaking time or share their screen. Everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone, do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws apply to addresses in public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette. Speakers have been informed about how long they can speak for tonight. I remind all present that the video recording tonight is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. Therefore, all present should ensure there are no video recordings or photographs taken this evening. I'd now like to acknowledge country and acknowledge the traditional custodians, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past and present. The people of the Eora Nation, their spirits and ancestors will always remain with our waterways and the land, our Mother Earth. Councillors, we had some sad news this week. Some of you might remember Christian Jones, who worked in the Mayoral office when it was first established. So it's with great sadness that I let you know that he passed away. And so he worked in the office when we first were established as a communications assistant, and many of you may have interacted with him early in or during 2022. Christian was a very talented writer and extremely clever and highly accomplished. He remained part of the team, although he had turned his main focus to his work in local public health and was undertaking a PhD. Christian will be sorely missed, and his family and friends are in our thoughts and prayers, and I would like to take a minute's silence to remember Christian, and I ask that we all stand and take a moment's silence. May he rest in peace. Thank you. I now invite Reverend Colin Watts from St Stephen's Anglican Church, East Lakes, to open the meeting in prayer.
Thank you. I'll lead us in prayer. O Lord God, through your Son Jesus, you have revealed your servant heart and taught us that greatness is expressed through the service of others. So we thank you for our council members who have offered themselves in service of our local community, and pray that you might bless them in their endeavours. Grant them wisdom in their decision-making, fruitfulness in their discussions, and may they work together in harmony for the common good of the people of Bayside. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Reverend Watts, for joining us this evening, taking the time to come and Say a prayer. Thank you. I'd also like to extend our warm greetings and good wishes to everyone celebrating Ramadan as well. So Ramadan Kareem. Okay, there are no apologies this evening. However, we have Councillor Morrissey wishing to participate in this meeting by audio-visual link. Will someone happy to move that? Councillor Jansen, second the Councillor Muscat. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you. This takes us to item 5, which is disclosures of interest. We could have the disclosures of interest on the screen. Okay, so first disclosure of interest in relation to the DCP. So I declare a pecuniary interest on the basis that I own a secondary residence, and I will lead the meeting for consideration and voting on this matter. The second one is just to declare in relation to 12.3 that I attended the presentation event for Banksia Tigers. That on the record. Councillor Morrissey, if I can hand over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll declare a special disclosure in 11.3 CPE 23.008 draft DCP on the basis I've only got an interest in the land, which is my principal place of residence, and as such I will remain in the chamber for voting. And also to disclose, I have been for 12.3 was also at the presentation for that football club, and I will remain in the chamber. It was only as an invited guest.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Muscat.
I'm also declaring a less than significant non-pecuniary interest in item CPE 23.008 regarding the draft Bayside DCP based on the interest in my land in my place of residence, and is not impacted by the proposed changes, and as such I will remain in the meeting for consideration and voting.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Councillor Jansen.
Yes, same declaration on item 11.3 CPE 23.008. It's a less than significant non-pecuniary interest because I have a parcel of land which is my principal place of residence. Also need to declare 12.3 because I was also at the Banksia Tigers presentation by invite. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Councillor Sarabnovsky.
11.3. No, 11.3. I declare a specific pecuniary interest as my family members who own property in the Rockdale Town Centre, and I will not be in the chamber when this item is debated in any way. Probably maybe to expand it, but no, I'll leave it at that because I own property, but it's not in the thing. And the second point was 12.3. That's a less significant. I attended the Harmony Day yesterday on Saturday, and I was invited as a councillor. I attended and walked around the park on it. So, and if we could also include that I went to a presentation last year with along with the other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Sarabnovsky. Councillor Werner.
Yes, I'd like to declare a non-significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest because in item 11.3 CPE 23.008 because I partly own a principal place of residence, but this is not impacted by this decision, so I'll remain in the chamber. Also on item 12.3, tabling a petition. So I'm declaring a less than significant non-pecuniary interest as under clause 5.2 of the Bayside Code of Conduct. I'm no longer a member of the Friends of Gardiner Park, and I don't have any interests, personal interests in that will be affected by tabling that petition. So I will stay in the chamber for that item, but I will leave the chamber for item 12.5, notice of motion Friends of Gardiner Park, because there is a possibility that there might be historical actions on historical actions of a community group of which I was a member before December 2021. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Councillor Barlow. Okay, is Councillor Awadas is next. I'll just run off the screen.
I didn't even know it was up there, so it's a
We'll go to
non-pecuniary
Councillor
interest.
Barlow. Yep.
CPE 23.008. Less than significant non-pecuniary interest in the item, whatever, on the basis that she only has an interest in the land which is a principal place of residence, which is not impacted by the proposed changes, and stated she will remain in the meeting for consideration and voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Wada.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just less than significant non-pecuniary interest on item 12.3, like all the others, on the basis that I attended Tiger's presentation night, and I will remain in the chamber for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wada. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. I'd also like to declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest in item CPE 23.008 on the basis that I only have interest in land which is my principal place of residence, which is not impacted by the proposed changes, and I will remain in the meeting for consideration and voting on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. Just on item 10.2, the VPA for Pagewood Green, the conflict of duties due to my membership of the Eastern Sydney Planning Panel.
So are you leaving? Sorry, leaving? Yep. Thank you, Councillor McDougall. No, there are no further declarations. Oh, Councillor Hannah.
Madam Mayor, this is not really a declaration, but I did notice that one of the speakers shares my surname, Mr. Danny Hanna. Is that correct?
On the speaker list, yes, we have a Mr. Danny Hanna.
Okay, I'd just like to declare, as far as I'm aware, he's not related to me, so I'll be remaining in the chamber. If something comes to light that indicates he is related at some point in time, well, I'll alter my declaration.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hannah.
Thank you.
Councillor Naji.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, on item 10.2, I'm on the City Eastern Panel, conflict of duties, so I won't be in the chamber for 10.2. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. Yes. Are there any further declarations? Councillor Awada?
Just on the DCP, Madam Mayor, I will be declaring pecuniary interest.
You're gonna pull it
I'd
up.
say, can you bring that screen down, please?
Come up, here it is.
Okay. Pecuniary interest item CPE 23.008 on the basis that family members own property in the Bayside ALGWA, and I will be leaving the chamber for consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryder. Are there any other further declarations?
I just realised that notice of motion 12.1, the Still Gardening program, is aimed at older generations. So I'll just declare an interest that I'm a bit older
Oh,
than,
Councillor Barlow, no.
and I might use it at one stage.
Thank you, Councillor. All right. This now takes us to minutes of the previous meeting. So the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of February 2023. Moved Councillor Souness, seconded Councillor Nargi. And just note that there's an amendment to the Mayor's disclosure of interest on 12.2. Just a change in wording. There was an incorrect wording. So it was changed from lobby to member association. So just flagging that. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Mayoral minutes. So, councillors, apologies for the late mayoral minute, but it you would have received a copy, and I just really thought it was important. I really wanted to acknowledge the outstanding community events we've had in the last couple of weeks. And also, so we had 2 events. We had the Active Fest, which was held at Borroley and Botany Pool. And then we had the opening of our fantastic Sir Joseph Banks Nature Play Park. And I just wanted to thank all Bayside Council staff involved in the design and the delivery of the park, and then also the community events that went with the park as the park opening, and also the Active Fest. So the Active Fest, and I know most councillors had an opportunity to call in, was very well supported by the community of all ages. It was wonderful to see. We had a young person's and an adult biathlon. So it was really wonderful. People were very excited. It was free entry for the community on Sunday, because the pool had been closed on the Saturday for the RSL swimming championships. So what was really good about this event, because we've got a real focus on well-being and particularly mental health. So there was an opportunity. We had families learning CPR. We also had free heart checks as well. So Heartbeat, the football was there, giving people free health checks. I know I've seen them at many of our football clubs as well. So that was really fantastic. So some really good things, and also to let you know that more defibrillators are being distributed across our senior centres and our sporting facilities over the next while. So that's really good news. And the playground, if you haven't had an opportunity to go, I encourage. It's all ages, all abilities. There's even something for the teenagers there as well. And it's got flying fox, it's got trampolines, it's got a variety of climbing activities. And I think we had well over 1,000 people through the park on the day of the opening. And it was just so wonderful to see. We had a council stall there, we had entertainment, we had one of our own staff members, Glenn, playing the didgeridoo as well, which the children really loved. So it's a fantastic part of Bayside Council. So just want to call out the areas that should be acknowledged for their work in these events. So it's a sport and rec area, strategic planning, development services, city projects, parks and gardens, and our communication events team, who all contributed to such a successful event. So I just want it to be noted that Council expresses its sincere gratitude to these areas for their great work. Yes, Councillor Jansen.
I'd really love to support this Mayoral Minute, because like you, I attended both of these events, and the feedback from the community was just outstandingly positive. In particular, I'd also like to call out Glenn for his didgeridoo work and engagement with children. I think he was a bit of a star at the Sir Joseph Banks Park opening. So I'd really like to congratulate all staff involved in both events. They're both just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Barlow?
I really think encourage everyone to go over there. It was amazing. It really was amazing. And I think you should go now. There's no crowds there.
Yeah.
Because it was good you put that video up, because my photos, there was too many people in there. So I've got to congratulate the staff and thank the government for giving us some extra money.
True.
And we'll be back there on the 31st for the launch of the Swan Island.
Yes, yes, and yeah, just to let people know that we're launching a swan and turtle pontoon, because we've We've noticed that the swans have been nesting, and what's happened is their eggs have been attacked, and so this will provide an opportunity for them to nest. So it's the community are really fond of the swans, and so it was a community-led project. So everyone's welcome to that launch on Friday the 29th. It'll be in our e-news. Thank you for reminding me, Councillor Barlow. All right. That then takes us to items by exception. So prior to the public forum, I will now proceed to deal with the remainder of the business paper by exception. Councillors, the public forum items and the items where councillors have a pecuniary interest or significant interest will be dealt with individually. Councillors, are there any? I will let you know what I've withdrawn. If there are any additional items, I will go round the chamber. So at the moment, we have, I've pulled out 10.2, which is the amendment to the VPA. I pulled out 10.6, which is the ALGWA National General Assembly proposed motions. 10.7, which is the ALGWA New South Wales Branch Annual Conference. For the minutes of the committees, for 11.3, the minutes of the City Planning and Environment Committee meeting, I've pulled out CPE 23006, which is the draft planning proposal heritage conservation areas. That's pulled out because there's a division required due to it being a planning matter. I've pulled out CPE 23.008, the post-exhibition report of the DCP. And then there are, of course, our notices of motion, which all remain on the paper as well. So I'll now go round the chamber. If there are any items you wish to pull out, please let me know. Councillor Muscat, no. Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness. Which minutes first? 11.1. Yep. Thank you, Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner.
If you have the mic, please.
The minutes of was it the Services Committee where we talked about the reference groups? Which is...
So
oh, yeah.
You would like to pull that item?
Yes, please. I can't see it in the on this page.
It's 11.1008.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep,
That's the one.
thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow.
10.8. 10.8.
10.8, the council expenses and facilities.
And well, I think Councillor Souness at CW.
The voice to Parliament.
The voice of Parliament.
That's been pulled out.
Yeah, okay. That was it.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas.
10.1 and 10.3, please, Madam Mayor.
10.1, so that is the 6-month progress report, and 10.3, the Sydney Gateway. Thank you. Councillor McDougall. Councillor Cedrak. All right, thank you, councillors. All the other items will be dealt with by one resolution. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Naji, seconded Councillor Jansen. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. Thank you. This now takes us to the public forum. Just before we commence the public forum this evening, there's 3 notices of motions submitted by councillors, but I would just like to clarify for the public that, excuse me, that a notice of motion is merely a request by a councillor or councillors to undertake certain actions. It is only when the notice of motion is agreed to by the majority of councillors at the meeting that it becomes council's position on the matter. I think there was some confusion in relation to that. So I just wanted to clarify that for anyone that is in the chamber or listening at home, that is what a notice of motion is. All right, so members of the public who have applied to speak at the meeting will be invited to address. We have 9 speakers this evening. Due to the number of speakers have been informed of their speaking time. So in relation to 12.3 notice of motion petition, synthetic field Gardiner Park, there are 4 speakers. So 4 speakers with 3 minutes each. Item 12.4 notice of motion Bayside Artist in Residence program. There is 1 speaker who will have 5 minutes. There are 4 speakers on item 12.5, notice of motion Friends of Gardiner Park. So those speakers will be entitled to 3 minutes each in line with the Code of Meeting Practice. Speakers are advised that a warning bell will sound when only 1 minute of speaking time remains. Speakers who are joining the meeting via the Teams app are to have video off and microphone muted until I invite you to speak. Speakers will be removed from Teams once the item has concluded. You can then watch the remainder of the meeting on Bayside Council's YouTube page. If you registered a written submission, these have been provided to councillors prior to the meeting. Speakers are reminded to keep communication factual, polite and professional, and to use appropriate language and tone. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks, as defamation laws apply to addresses in public forum. All right, so the first item that we are going to deal with is item 12.3, notice of motion, petition, synthetic field Gardiner Park, and I just wanted to confirm, Councillor Werner, is there a petition? Because I haven't seen one.
There is a petition here, so I can pass that around. Which I'll do right now. That's the petition there. It was sent to council as a PDF, and every PDF that I opened was openable and I was able to see all the pages, but I got an email back saying that council wasn't able to open the PDF. So that's why I'm bringing the original petition here and tabling it in its original form. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Councillor Werner. Well, I note that...
Madam Mayor, I think we couldn't open the attachment of that petition. I'm not quite sure how we could debate a motion if we haven't seen the petition beforehand. I'm not going to read it in 2 seconds. I mean, if it's going to be around with 15 councillors and 1 online, I don't think that's appropriate, or that is not in order. That's not in order.
Yeah.
That's definitely not in order. So I would say the whole thing should be deferred.
Thank you, Councillor Water. One...
We use the mic, please.
Sorry, Councillor Morrissey. We need more time to digest this content here. That's my view.
Thank you, councillors. I do appreciate that you haven't had an opportunity to review the petition. However, there is another part to the motion, and therefore, because a motion has been put forward, council will have to adhere to the motion and then make a decision once that motion is debated. All right, so I invite...
I think what we should do is, Councillor should table it, and we should still discuss the issue of the isolation.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, that's correct. That would be the appropriate procedure, because if every councillor is going to go through this, it would be midnight. So I'll give it back to Councillor Werner to table it to council.
So, Councillor Werner, if you would deliver that to governance, please, and that will table.
Thank you. I could also read it out because it's just one paragraph and then each page.
No, I think it's fine. You need to listen to public forum now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we've got our first speaker who is speaking for the recommendation. I invite Mrs. Maria Ellenson, who is an affected neighbour, to come and address council. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, dear Mayor and councillors. I'm speaking for hundreds of residents who live in close proximity of the synthetic field at Gardiner Park and have signed the petition. The review of environmental factors undertaken by Bayside Council to permit the construction of the synthetic field states, Bayside Council has indicated that the worst case scenario temperature of the turf reaching 65 degrees, this is bluntly incorrect. Measurements undertaken at Gardiner Park by Dr. Sebastian Pfauch, Professor in Urban Management and Planning, demonstrated that the surface of the synthetic turf field to be 88 Celsius on a 28 degrees Celsius day. This was measured and recorded by Channel 9 on site. The Western Australian local government study Natural Grass versus Synthetic Turf states, synthetic turf surface absorbs rather than reflects sunlight, causing the emission of heat. These high temperatures not only impact the surrounding environment, but they can also affect the health and safety of athletes and children who use the synthetic turf grounds. The replacement of natural grass with synthetic turf has the opposite effect and contributes to rising temperatures in urban settings, known as the urban heat island effect. Urban heat islands are created when natural grass and trees are replaced by impervious surfaces which absorb heat. Urban heat islands increase demand for energy, particularly air conditioning, intensify air pollution, and increase heat-related health problems. Since the synthetic is installed, we measure dangerously hot temperatures at Gardiner Park, which impact residents close by as well as park users. I'm worried, especially for the children using the synthetic and risk this actually imposes. Multiple players overseas died already from heat strokes on synthetics. I want children to play on safe surfaces. We therefore want Bayside Council to monitor and prevent public nuisance, excessive heat, odors, gas emissions to neighbouring and surrounding residential properties, and provide clear notice to park users of heat dangers, mitigate excessive radiant heat with appropriate and effective strategy through consultation with heat experts and impact residents, start immediate extensive landscaping promised 2 years ago, and decide about field closures when it's too hot. It is hoped that Bayside Council will implement this as a minimum risk approach. Concerns and complaints from residents have been continuously ignored by Bayside Council. With the heat comes the smell, and the strong odour associated with off-gassing of a toxic cocktail is impacting on our health and life quality, which is simply put unacceptable. It seems to be strange to think that Bayside Council has erected 6-metre-high fences behind people's home to apparently protect us from flying soccer balls, based on a very questionable risk assessment without any consultation. We all know we never had issues with flying balls.
Excuse me, Ms. Ellison, can you please stick to the matter that
Yep,
we're debating?
and now I'm coming to the point.
Excuse
Yep.
me, don't interrupt me.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm coming.
explaining something. Please wait.
Yeah.
Thank you. So please stick to the fact that we're talking about heat. We're not talking about
Yep.
fences or anything. Thank you.
I understand, but at the same time, Bayside exposes residents and players to extreme heat from one of the cheapest toxic synthetic surface infields, not even installed anymore in a lot of countries, and with a European Risk Assessment Committee recommending a total ban of rubber crumb. Thank you to Councillor Greta Werner for raising this motion, and I also want to say the New South Wales Chief Scientist report is withheld and is cabinet in confidence, so I urge Bayside to address public nuisance issues the synthetic surface has created now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brownbill.
Dear Bayside Council, Mayor Christina Curry and councillors. Concerns over the heat radiating from the synthetic field have so far been ignored by Bayside Council, with multiple requests made by residents seeking council to address the issue, namely to conduct radiant temperature assessments derived from the synthetic turf, investigate the heat impacts of the synthetic turf to the immediate and surrounding residents. Is that appropriate?
Continue, please.
Is that appropriate?
Continue, please.
Surrounding residents' homes and park users to ensure that the human health impacts are mitigated. These requests have been ignored by Bayside Council since December 2021, and no response has been provided addressing these concerns. This petition seeks for this to be amended by Bayside Council and the requests as detailed above undertaken. Council has a duty of care for residents directly impacted by the installation of synthetic turf and the increased heat impacts generated. Heat stress is Australia's #1 natural killer, accounting for the deaths of more people than floods, cyclones and bushfires. Storms combined. Heat waves have killed more Australians than any other extreme weather event. Australia is one of the most vulnerable countries with regard to climate change, and the number of hot days, warm nights and heat waves are all projected to increase over the 21st century, and the effect of urban heat islands must be mitigated. Urban heat islands happen when the area has hard, sealed surfaces and less green infrastructure, such as tree canopy, vegetation and waterways. This is from the Department of Planning and Industry. This is because hard surfaces absorb, stir and radiate heat, while green infrastructure reflects heat, provides shade and releases water into the atmosphere. Green infrastructure also makes local areas easier to enjoy and encourages people to spend time outdoors. It also provides habitat for animals and plants and increases their variety in cities. This is from the Western Australian Government, synthetic turf absorbs heat rather than reflect sunlight, causes the emissions of heat. These high temperatures not only impact the surrounding environment, but they can also affect the health, safety of athletes and children who use the synthetic turf fields. They can become uncomfortable playing surface very quickly, especially in summer. Natural grass plays an important role in controlling climate. Natural grass is one of the best exterior solar radiation control covers because it absorbs radiation and converts it to food for growth through photosynthesis. Natural grass surfaces reduce temperature extremes by absorbing the sun's heat during the day and releasing it slowly in the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Brownbill. It's 3 minutes.
Extension.
Thank you.
You have a seconder? Seconder for extension.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Thank you, Councillor Werner.
Continue.
Thank you. Bayside Council has a duty of care and responsibility to prevent the identified public nuisance heat impacts experienced by the residents and the excessive radiant heat generated by synthetic pitches. In the petition, you will see, this is what I'm reading from, there is a clear indication of a study undertaken by SEED, the department's own consultants, which indicates synthetic surfacing increases the heat or the warming and cooling influence of landscape surfaces. Synthetic surfaces generates 10.9 degrees in the negative, increases the surface temperature or the ambient temperature by 10.9 degrees. Irrigated turf is minus 4.89, a 16-degree difference. Sunday afternoon, Banksia recorded 32.7 degrees at 7:30 at night. 16 degrees hotter than 32. I'll let you do the maths. Please, Council, address the heat impact concerns as has been requested of you since 2021. undertake the studies that are detailed in the petition, and please ensure that the residents actually have an amenity that is not impacted. They can be outside in their yards, they can be enjoying their property and their local surrounds and not impacted by the severe heat that is being experienced by these, or caused and generated from the synthetic turf. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brownbill.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask, there is people holding up signs in the gallery. I haven't seen that before in a meeting. Is that
It's
allowed?
a democracy. That's appropriate.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask, the document that Mr. Brownbill was referring to, is that part of the, can we clarify if that's part of the petition or not?
Well, no, I'll answer it. Thank you. So, we'll ask that of Councillor Werner when we come to dealing with the motion. Thank you. All right, I now invite the next speaker. I invite Miss Louise. Yeah. Can you close that door, please? Thank you. Miss Louise Carnib, interested citizen resident speaking against the recommendation.
Thank you, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. I apologise in advance if my mum voice becomes a bit louder throughout my speech, as I am a mother of 7 kids, 5 of whom play at Banksia Tigers. I'm currently the club administrator for Banksia Tigers, and I also chair the women's committee there as well. Last motion against Gardiner's Park was said by a certain individual that the club was run by bearded angry men. Well, I'd like to clarify that before moving forward. We actually have 12 bearded, gentle, kind. That's okay, that's fine. So I cannot mention anything about our females playing at the club?
You can mention about females participating in football. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we have 80% of our female players who are 16 and under. They're the youth and the future of our community that play at Banksia Tigers, and not one has ever complained about heat stress or, you know, excessive training that we've put upon them, and they actually really enjoy having a synthetic pitch that they're able to use all year round. So I just wanted to put that there. And then we also do support them with other aspects in their life, not just soccer, from the club. So I just wanted to make note of that. So I would like to state as a mother, I have no concerns in regards to my kids playing on the synthetic pitch at Gardiner's Park on a hot day, as Banksia Tigers are proactive in helping keep in line with the Football New South Wales extreme heat policy. I have not witnessed anyone suffering from an injury or issues due to playing on the pitch during hot weather. That is because Banksia Tigers is proactive in adhering to Football New South Wales heat policy at all times. For example, as recent as Sunday, when temperatures were expected to reach a top of 32 degrees, the club decided to call off the games the day before the games were played between the hours of 11 and 4 p.m, when the sun and heat would be at its peak, because at the end of the day, Banksia Tigers takes its duty of care to its players seriously and follows through with the Football New South Wales extreme heat policy, which is in place. As an official member and a mother, my concerns for Gardiner Park is not its synthetic pitches, but the ongoing saga with certain individuals and groups who continue to bully our community, intimidate our kids by letting their big dogs off leash at the park, free to attack the kids at their will, harass and question our kids when they're on the pitch, record our kids while they're playing. Sorry, yes, my mum voice, sorry,
Yeah,
Mayor.
so maybe Yeah,
It's
just, yeah,
okay.
and maybe just stay focused on,
Yep.
yeah, the heat, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was proposing that legal action be taken against these individuals because when they are coming out to measure the synthetic for heat purposes,
Yeah,
they are actually videoing our kids and recording our kids without their consent, and these recordings actually go home
And
with them.
I encourage you to put that in writing to council if you
Yep.
have concerns about that. For this
Yep.
purpose,
Because they are sending people out to do, you know, to do.
I understand,
Yep.
but for the purposes of this, we just have to stay focused on
No worries.
the issue of heat, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would just like to make note as to why the motion is specifically targeted at Gardiner's Park when we have 6 other synthetic pitches within a 2 to 3 kilometre radius, of which they have not been mentioned. Nothing to do with the environment, climate change or heat, because if that was the case, all clubs with synthetic pitches in the whole of New South Wales and Australia should be mentioned in these motions, not just one singular club. These motions are anything other than what they say. If I go off topic, please stop me. Discrimination is what I would call it. Racially motivated is what I would call it.
Thank
That's
you.
fine. That's okay. Because I cannot think of any other logical reason as to why Gardiner Park and Banksia Tigers are singled out motion after motion by the motion presenter. I repeat, there are 6 other pitches within a 2 to 3 kilometre radius of Gardiner Park. Not one has been mentioned, nor have they ever. This is an attack on Gardiner's Park and Banksia Tigers. And I don't use that word lightly. We are under attacked by a group of individuals with a hidden agenda, nothing better to do with their time. Banksia Tigers do not have a hidden agenda and transparent in all that they do. We are providing the community a great service. The motion presenter, along with a group of followers, are the ones continually breaking the laws at Gardiner Park. Where's the motion to stop them? We live in a democracy, but at the end of the day, if you don't win, doesn't mean that you should continue to pursue and hound the community to get your end result. The motion presenter is intentionally putting forth motions against Gardiner Park and Banksia Tigers when we are not, I repeat, not the only synthetic park in Bayside. We have been working with council to build a beautiful relationship and would like to continue working together in peace and harmony and appreciate your continued support by stopping these ridiculous motions against Gardiner Park and Banksia Tigers being brought forth month after month when we are not the only synthetic park in Bayside Council. We are asking council to please take action and support us as we need this prejudice to stop so we can concentrate on the youth programs we aim to deliver for years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I now invite Miss Irene Hatzapetros, who is the Chairperson and Executive Director of Football St George, who is speaking against the motion.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Dr Christina Curry, Councillors, General Manager Meredith Wallace. I'd also like to acknowledge some of our member club leaders that are here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today I give rise to talk against the motion tabled as Petition, Synthetic Field, Gardiner Park. I'm here this evening speaking for thousands of players and community members. Football governing bodies across Australia are dedicated to the safe delivery of football matches, and the safety of players and referee is of central and vital importance. Football New South Wales, as adopted by Football St George and our respective member clubs, has long had an extreme heat policy that identifies the actions to take when football matches are scheduled during hot weather. The Football New South Wales extreme heat policy is based on the Sports Medicine Australia policy, which was developed in conjunction with the University of Sydney Thermal Ergonomics Laboratory in the School of Health Sciences, Faculty of Medicine and Health. Sports Medicine Australia is a peak national organisation that provides leadership in the areas of sports exercise and medicine, sports injury, physical activity, sports exercise and science, and the healthy performance and participation of Australians in physical activity and sport. Sports Medicine Australia is widely acknowledged internationally as a leading multidisciplinary sports medicine body. The extreme heat policy provides a very clear set of guidelines and an online tool to help clubs navigate the safe playing of football in a range of temperatures. It provides mitigation strategies considering the prevailing heat stress risks for children and adults for both natural grass and synthetic fields. The policy developed by industry experts, the internationally trusted Sports Medicine Australia, and professors at the University of Sydney Faculty of Medicine and Health, informed by years of research, experience and data, presents an immensely better way of managing participation in community sport rather than...
Second one.
Thank you for that preempting. Appreciate it. Sport rather than the very simplistic, untested, unfounded and indiscriminate number presented in the motion to council. The motion to council is flawed in its premise and design when considered against the scientifically developed mitigation strategies and policies developed by Sports Medicine Australia and implemented by Football New South Wales, the associations, local football associations, respective clubs, to protect the safety of the community. If those petitioning against use of the all-weather sporting field at Gardiner Park on days over 28 degrees Celsius are truly interested in the health impact on those using the facility, they should equally petition against hard surface tennis courts, synthetic grass tennis courts, open air and hard surface netball and basketball courts, all indoor sport halls that do not have air conditioning as the ambient temperatures is much higher than outdoors, all halls used by schools for meetings and organised sport, hard surface bicycle tracks and community bicycle paths, hard surface open air quadrangles at all schools used for recreation time and organised sport, recreational jogging or strenuous activity undertaken on sealed roads or footpaths, or any other activity that involves moderate levels of physical exertion on a sealed surface in the community. The continued focus on Gardiner Park without similar interest or concern for other community facilities that present equal or greater risk in relation to heat and that have no formal support network or governance guidelines indicates that those petitioning have an agenda other than what is listed in this motion to council and that they do not have a genuine concern for the welfare of the community using Gardiner Park. Madam Mayor, Bayside Council has long been a remarkable council.
Extension,
Thank you.
Seconded, continue, thank you.
Thank you. Bayside Council has long been a remarkable council and we again commend you and councillors in providing such great facilities. However, given the relentless attempts in what can only be explained as a targeted attack on one of our great clubs, the parties involved in these continuous attacks are simply trying to make a mockery of this great council. Football St George would be more than happy to assist council in providing any information, such as the policies of information that I have noted this evening. Again, we thank you for this opportunity to address council.
Thank you, councillors. We will now deal with the motion. If we can have the motion on the screen, please. So if we just, okay, so we've got the motion on the screen. Do I have a mover? Move yes. Councillor Werner. Is there a seconder? Councillor Douglas. Councillor Werner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to say that this motion has nothing to do with Banksia Tigers. But I would like to thank Banksia Tigers for coming along today, because it's really great to hear that Banksia Tigers is so serious about the Football New South Wales extreme heat policy, and I'm very, very glad to hear that. So just to reiterate, it's got nothing to do with Banksia Tigers, because the park is actually used by a lot of different clubs. It's also used informally, and while the Banksia Tigers has an excellent extreme heat policy from Football New South Wales, informal users of the park might know nothing about the dangers of the synthetic field. So this is why I think it would be really important for council to have a policy around that. Another thing that I would like to say is that this motion is to table a petition that was brought by the residents of Gardiner Park. Now, of course, Bayside does have a lot of synthetic fields, unfortunately, and but Gardiner Park is the only one that is surrounded by residents that live very close by. Some people have their property 10 metres away. So that is the big difference. That is the big difference with Gardiner Park. And what I'm doing is I'm simply tabling this petition from residents. If residents in any of the other parks would like to bring a petition, I would also be happy to table those. So this really is a much broader issue than just Gardiner Park, as the speakers have said. And I would like to thank you for pointing that out, that we do have a lot of synthetic fields. What I would like to do is I would like to read out the petition because it is very short. It's only a few sentences, if that's allowed.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So I'll ask Mr. Soot. And actually every single page here is the same, except it's got the signatures of, I believe, 332 residents, but it's the petition text says, Gardiner Park is a public park. In 2021 to 2022, a synthetic field was installed without community consultation, and the pre-existing cooling grass was removed from a large part of Gardiner Park. In 2022, heat scientist Sebastian Fouch measured 88 degrees on a 28-degree day at Gardiner Park in the presence of a TV crew from Channel 9. Concerns over heat radiating from the synthetic field have so far been ignored by Bayside Council. The local community is requesting, number one, as per motion tabled and decided in 2020, that Bayside start immediate extensive landscaping to mitigate some of the urban heat created to give residents privacy. And number two, Bayside Council to measure the surface heat on the synthetic field and decide about field closures when it is too hot and develop synthetic field policies to protect players, especially children playing on hot synthetic fields. So that's the text of the motion. Thank you, Mr. Soot. So the other things that I would like to say is that there is some information here from staff about the Chief Scientist report and the review that was meant to be released this year. But this Chief Scientist report has actually been on the desk of the Minister for a while. And the report has been withheld from a GIPA, so a information request, a public information request, because it is deemed cabinet in confidence. So we don't know when this report is going to come out. And so I think because of the dangers of heat on synthetic fields, I think that it would be really useful for council to act on it much sooner rather than waiting for the Chief Scientist report. In fact, I actually think it's our duty because we need to make sure that people aren't injured by, accidentally maybe placing their children on the hot field, thinking that it's a nice green grass when really it's very hot. So I think for that reason, also, apart from tabling this petition, the second point is that council provides a report to the relevant council committee on policy options to protect the public and especially children who play soccer on the fields in both formal and also informal settings. So that's, and I hope that my fellow councillors can support this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Councillor Saranowski.
Madam Mayor, I just need to correct Councillor Warner in relation to the distance that Gardiner Park is unique in terms of residents. Ayler Avenue backs onto residential homes, less than 1 metre. JJ Graham Field backs onto residential spots, again the same, less than 3 metres. Bright Memorial Playing Field, yes, there is a bit of a distance, it backs onto residential area. Also, the one that we've had for a number of years, the synthetic field where they play hockey. I've never heard of anyone from the Hockey Association or the residents, and guess where the hockey one does? It backs onto residential areas. I am absolutely disgusted, Madam Mayor. This is specifically designed for Gardiner Park and Banksia Tigers. I'll be up front. This is it. As Councillor Silver said the other thing there. I want to thank firstly the Greens that are here tonight. I wish them all the best on Saturday's elections. Wish them all the best. I gave them number 2 at Rockdale today. Madam Mayor. No. Madam Mayor, the reason I feel strongly about this is, as the previous 2 speakers have said, Gardiner Park is not the only field that we have in our city that is synthetic. It's not. One of the Greens candidate at the last council election rang me up and told me about a smell at JJ Graham Field. I went and saw some of the residents. I thought to myself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got it wrong. I rang up, spoke to some of the committee members. I actually went and saw the residents there that back onto JJ Graham Field. You know what they told me it smells from? Irresponsible dog owners that take their dogs for a walk and they don't bring the bag. That's true. That's what they said on it. I spoke to the residents at Ada Avenue. Again, same thing. We've never had a problem. We actually want more fences up because we're sick and tired of the balls going into our backyard. But I mean, I'm not an expert on heat. I'm not. Banksia Tigers, and I want to thank Irene for speaking. There is a code. There is no way in the world this council or the club would allow a playing field that would be detrimental to the kids and to adults. No way in the world. None of them, I've never heard about Ada Avenue, JJ Graham, Brighton Memorial Playing Field, or Rockdale's Ground, or Hensley Athletic Field. I don't know if anyone knows, but that's what Hensley Athletic Field is. Synthetic. All weather. It's all weather. This is an attack on Banksia Tigers. It is simple. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not beat around the bush. There are residents there that deliberately bring their dogs up soon. I was there last week and the week before. They deliberately bring their dogs unleashed into the area simply to attack the kids. I remember the Greens campaigned last time and said, parks for all our kids. Well, the kids can't play in the park. Remember last council meeting? They wanted to get rid of the kids. This is it. This is. I'm sick and tired of this matter coming up to council, Madam Mayor. What we should be doing is waiting for the expert, the New South Wales chief scientist. Now, I did some research, and according to the mother of the Greens, is the Greens on council Inner West. Guess what they support? I'll read out to you, so I've got extra copies. Occasionally, a form of synthetic field may be the most appropriate surface for a particular field. This is the Greens, Inner West. So what's the issue about synthetic fields? Inner West Council voted just over the bridge last year to build not 1, not 2, but 3 synthetic fields. Georges River Council has 3 synthetic fields. I've never read anything about this pollution, the heat. We have our neighbouring council, Randwick, has built, again, synthetic fields. I, as a parent, would be deeply concerned in relation to the heat. I would be, and I have total faith in the organisers of all the clubs, not just Banksia Tigers, all the clubs will take the most responsible and not put the kids on any danger. And I congratulate the club for shutting down the field on Sunday. But can I just say, councillors, and I want to thank the members of the public and the Greens for coming. Thank you for coming. I want to thank you for coming. But this is getting to a point where it's ridiculous on it. We should be debating other issues and waiting until the chief scientist brings down the report. And that's what we put on hold, because I feel sorry for Bexley North Bombers. They've received no funding for amenities block, nor a synthetic field. If you ask the parents and then you ask them and say, what do you want? You want natural grass or synthetic field? And I'll tell you, you'll almost get 100% answer. And they'll say, we want a synthetic field because we're sick and tired of the game's been called off. Last year, if it wasn't for the all-weather facilities, the competitions would have been kaput. There would have been no sport around there. Now, this club here, Banksia Tigers, they don't just do football. They do other social events. They try and bring their kids together. We don't want our kids to be living in fear or going to Gardiner's Park and be worried about some irresponsible neighbour that's got a dog unleashed and they're worried that the dog may take the children. Councillors, this is silly, this notice of motion. It should be thrown out and we should be more interested in other important issues. This is an important issue, but until we get the experts, I'm not an expert, I'm a banker. Until we get the experts, and as the New South Wales Chief Scientist, which this council previously adopted, we should throw this out and wait till the report comes out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Chief Scientist may turn around and say, these are the guidelines. Simple, then we comply. The one thing, Madam Mayor, we will not be pulling out the synthetic field in Gardiner Park. That's one thing we will never do.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Souness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too cannot support this motion in any way, shape or form. And what concerns me is the petition. We finally get to have a look at it. Just there's two lines of concern. Synthetic fields installed without community consultation. Well, okay, but we had a court case over that. And I'll just mention that. We had a court case over that brought down a decision which was different to what is actually there. But that's fine. And the other issue is there's a mention of a Sebastian professor who measured 88 degrees on a 28. Well, how would the person signing this know that was correct or incorrect? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a person who tries to make judgment calls on these things. But when you're walking down the street and say, can you sign this? And the person says, well, 28 degrees, what does that mean? Was that explained to them? No. So let's leave that aside. One thing that I know, though, as a parent of children who've played soccer, I know for a fact that if it's a hot day, the man will say, let the kids play. But the ladies, the mother of the children will say, hang on a minute, it's 30 degrees outside, where are you going? All right? That's where the buck stops, so to speak. Okay? And it's a good thing, because beyond that, though, no, I'm not being sexist, they're a bit more cluey than us men in certain respects. I'm showing my age now, I guess, compared to other people. But there is a duty of care on behalf of Banksia Tigers. They have a policy in place, which I would assume they would be required to have by Football St George, Football New South Wales, Football Australia. It'd be a tier down. This is what the policy is, guys. We need to protect our players on surfaces where it may be hotter than we expect. The idea is that there is a policy in place and clubs pursue it. They follow it to a letter. If a new person signs up and they say, well, why aren't we playing today? Well, we've got a policy in place where this is what we do. Now, it's far from us to create a policy of our own as a council over hearsay. Channel 9 went and measured it. Some guy which I don't know who it was, said, yeah, it's 88 degrees, but it's really 28, and all this carry on. The facts remain, as Councillor Saranowski mentioned, there is a report coming down. When that report comes down, as an organisation, as a bona fide organisation, we're obligated to listen to what it says, to use a nasty word, take on the learnings of what they offer. We have a number of synthetic fields. We have 6 in the area. Why 7? Okay, I've been challenged by the director of presentation. 7 in the area. Why is there not a problem in the other 6? Why is Gardiner Park a volcano that's erupting every couple of weeks? Why are there dogs running off leash there? Why are the kids being videoed? I don't understand that. I'm involved with the last time we come down to Ramsgate. If I see someone with a camera, you say, put your camera away, well, the police will come and ask you why you're taking videos of kids down there. It's not appropriate. It is not an appropriate act. So that, again, is diverting from what we have in front of us. We need to have harmony. If there's a question of, and it was raised at the last council meeting, of overuse of the park and exacerbation of the time that people are actually there, and it seems to be more than what the community expects. Okay, we can address that as a council. We can look at that, look at the timing, look at the usage on the fields. We can actually go there. We have bona fide figures that we can refer to and say, okay, this park is being used in this sort of fashion. We've got so many people on the park. They need to leave at a certain time, so the amenity of the residents is protected. And it's there. That information is there for us. We don't have to sit there and make up things. It's actually there. We know the bookings. Banksia can tell us who's playing where. The association can tell us who's doing what on the weekends. Banksia doesn't control the grounds on the weekend. The association says, you will be playing these games. This is your rounds. It's as simple as that. They control, I understand Banksia would be controlling the training, but again, as a corporate citizen, they don't want noise at 9 o'clock at night. They want to tell the kids to go home. When I was involved with no, not Ramsgate, I'm trying to think now, San Susie Soccer Club, as soon as at a certain time, the kids had to leave. There's residents nearby. We had to pack it up. That was it. There's no ifs or buts. The lights went off. And that's being a good corporate citizen, so to speak. And I would imagine Banksia would be the same. Why would you allow a couple of teams to play in the middle of the night and turn the fire off and then be criticised the next day? It's not appropriate. And I don't think this club would be going down that pathway. So I can't support this. If there is something that's bona fide down the track, that we get told that there's a heat island effect that affects this park in particular, because I know there's a big heat island near us. It's called the airport. That's a massive piece of concrete that really takes away from the green space that we had once upon a time when Captain Cook came here. But the point is, as we speak today, all our houses, all our properties create a heat island effect because we're regulated, and the Director of City Futures will tell us, BASIC controls how much green space we can have, or we should have. And again, we follow the guidelines of that. Every resident follows the guidelines of that. Similar to us, we follow the guidelines of what was permitted on that park. We went through the proper processes, and we delivered a park that the previous council in this chamber wanted, and that's what the community wanted, because they represented the community at the time, and we developed a park which is what it is today, which is what is Gardiner Park today. Now, if there's a number of people that couldn't digest that were residents, again, we're obligated as councillors to listen to their views, to consult in a way after we put the park in place. We create an opportunity for that reference group, and it's still an ongoing process. It's sort of staggered a bit in the moment, but it's an ongoing process. So I'll go back to here because I've been given the finger, so to speak. I can't support this as it is.
The clock.
I can't support the
clock, not the finger.
Yeah, sorry. It was the finger on the clock. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. Councillor Narji.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I promise not to take as long as Councillor Souness, but Councillor Saranovsky and Councillor Souness, excuse my voice, they really spoke about everything, doesn't leave much for others to debate or say. I enjoy my reputation of being Mr. Factual, and I'm just going to stick to some facts. I was one of the councillors in the previous council that we decided that synthetic fields, and now I'd like to call it all year round playing fields. I was one of the councillors that was very active saying that we need to do field by field all across the LGA. Having Sutherland before us, having other councils before us, put that aside. When we gave the go-ahead for Banksia Tigers, which was funded mostly by the government. Yeah, and we went ahead, and during the constructions, Friends of Gardiner Park was born. And when I looked, and it's a democratic right, and I love this country because it's a democracy. Everyone has the right to express their opinion and so on. When I looked, I knew most of the people in the Friends of Gardiner Park are the Greens, which I respect. It's their democracy. Come tonight, I mean, we've been through courts. I'm not going to repeat what Councillor Saranovsky and Councillor Suna said. Come tonight, we have another notice of motion. I wasn't present at the last council meeting where another notice of motion. And previously there were one or two, plus the process, the journey when we were building Gardiner Park, synthetic field. I've got to congratulate Councillor Werner for being smart and intelligent, using the same issues. Let's talk about the issues: safety and the heat. Councillor Werner, intelligently, she uses different wording, puts in a different notice of motion. She can't use the same notice of motion all the time because it'll be out of order. So using different wording with the same aim, cleverly done. I congratulate her, and it's her democracy, right? But I get offended that she undermines the intelligence of these councillors around the chamber. We voted before, and we voted, again and again, and we will vote tonight. And I hope to God we don't see it back, because if we see back about heat and safety, then I could only take this as an picking on our club, intimidation. I'm not going to get into certain words and legal words, but I take offence to that. Now, I know that Banksia Tigers now is the forefront. They've mentioned Arncliffe Park before, but somehow, once or twice, but they stopped. But it's true, there's about 7 synthetic fields around. And I was surprised and I chuckled a bit when Councillor Saranovsky tells me about the green. It's in their inner west. So they must have an internal problem of, supporting synthetic, maybe yes, maybe no, but that's not the issue. When it was brought to our attention, this council, that it could be a safety issue. Me, as a councillor that wanted a synthetic field in every field around the ALGWA, I said, hold on, we better stop and wait for an independent chief scientist. I'm not a scientist, but common sense prevails to me. And please, it's not on record that I am a scientist or I'm trying to give an opinion. But if you think about it, we have a guideline, New South Wales Football. They have a guideline that says about synthetic, and it tells you they measure by air temperature. Air temperature, not the ground. And I'll get back to about the ground, air temperature. So you can go up to 38 degrees before you decide to moderate. And if it goes to 40 degrees, let me just, I'm not quoted wrong, 40 degrees, it becomes high. And over 40 degrees, it becomes extreme danger. And I congratulate the club on that last Sunday when it was a hot day that they postponed, because that is a duty of care. But I want to assure not only Councillor Werner, but all the community, all the ones that are listening to us and the ones that aren't. If anyone believes, because you get on that social media and it's the same people saying, oh, councillors don't care about children, councillors, not worried about safety. I can assure you, Madam Mayor, and the community, I have 4 children of my own. And I tell you, I care about the safety always throughout when I was elected in 2004 till now, and in the future, whether I'm a councillor or not, the safety of our children is paramount to me. Equal, as I'm not going to say, well, I'm sure it's more, but as equal as Councillor Werner and all these concern of Gardiner Park. Now, when we talk about measuring heat, if you've got a 28 or 30 degrees, go to the beach. Put the measuring, whatever, the gun or whatever, it's going to be a lot more. You can't, when you're walking, I don't know if everyone experienced it, but when you're on the beach and you're walking on the sand and it's burning you because you're bare feet without thing. Now, does that mean we close the beaches and we tell people, hey, you can't swim today because the sand is very, very hot? You wear thongs and you walk the sand and then you jump into the water and you cool down. Okay, now our roads is a heat island. If you measure in the tar on the road and it's 40 degrees, I bet you it's 60 degrees. But I'm going to bring something closer to home. When we had 40-degree temperature the other day, or 38, well, guess what? I could have said, hey, staff, we need to go home because it's 38 degrees outside. Me behind the kebab machines and the charcoal and the grill, it was maybe 90 degrees. But I told the staff, we take it in turn, you go and cool down, had air conditioning for them, plenty of water, but we got to feed people. But does that mean the safety of our children and the community? So this has to stop. This has to stop. Now, we took it upon ourselves, and I'll conclude quickly, and I'm sure every councillor around this table, we said no more synthetic until we get that independent scientist. I'm going to share last thing with you about scientist research. I'm not a scientist, and I respect everyone's findings. But you get the coffee company. They'll employ a scientist, say, hey, please find us something that is beneficial to the human being so they can consume coffee. Guess what? You see it on Channel 9 or Channel 7, and they say, oh, coffee is good for you. It's good for the heart. And everyone says, oh, we better drink coffee. Then you get a company, the tea company says, oh, find us something that coffee, it's not beneficial. It's a health issue for the human. And guess what? They will. Scientists will find an issue to say, hey, coffee isn't good for you. And I've seen it on TV. And the same thing here with synthetic. Me personally, I can't speak on behalf of every councillor. Me personally, I need an independent scientist to come up and say, to this council, give us a report to say, hey, synthetic fields are dangerous. You can't have them. Then, yes, we're not having them anyway. But we're not going to go and dig up a synthetic field now because, a group is making a noise. And I respect that. I respect every person has the right to put his opinion or voice. It's a democracy. But enough is enough. We can't just, it seems like we're targeting one club and not the others. ALGWA was one of the first that we did. In the east, we had a synthetic field that was renewed not long ago. It's been there before ALGWA, but no one has said anything. And finally, I keep saying that, there hasn't been a report, and correct me wrong, through you, Madam Mayor, the GM, the directors, the clubs. Has there been any serious injury that we need to consider it? No, the answer is no, we haven't. And all the children that I talk to, soccer players or non-soccer players, okay, because we support all fields. We've upgraded all sports, the netball, everybody. And I haven't heard one player complaining about the synthetic field or the heat except to say, what a beautiful field to play on. So we are going to support our children and we will not compromise them and put them in an unsafe situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nagi. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I wasn't on council when the decision was made to vote for synthetic fields, and I'd like to go on the record to say probably if I was, that I probably may well have resisted, because I do remember Bexley Aquatic was cut back to fund some synthetic fields, and we've continued to regret that. So I come to this as impartially as I can. And I've also taken the time, as I've mentioned here in the chamber before, to go to Gardiner Park at various times, during the day, weekends, when soccer's been on, when soccer hasn't been on. I've observed the park, I've walked around and I've taken that all in. And I'm feeling like I have unwittingly walked into a war zone. And what I would say, and I would make this comment, that the Friends of Gardiner Park, if they continue with these motions, they are going to turn themselves into the enemy of the ratepayer. Because what I would say to you is that this is dividing the community. And I'm trying to say that from the most impartial perspective that I can have. I'm not a fan of soccer. I don't back soccer. My children didn't play soccer. They were swimmers. However, when I go to the field, when I walk around when the soccer is on, I have no problem with it. That's my personal view. But what I would say is that when I know we're talking about heat, we need to take the heat out of this argument. People need to take a chill pill. And I'm not talking about sides, I'm not saying both sides, because this has been, from my observation, been one of the most divisive issues that I have seen come before this council. And echoing what Councillor Nagy has said, this has got to stop. Now, our answer is going to come to us, and it's going to be very simple. It might be delayed, it might be tied up on a minister's desk, but the simple fact of the matter is that the Department of Planning and Environment, in conjunction with the Chief Scientist report, will be developing a set of guidelines. Now, that set of guidelines will allow this council to refer to them and make a determination on heat and whether or not these synthetic fuels are safe. So what I would say to everyone involved with this, and I'm saying this from a position of impartiality because I've already stated I'm not in favour of soccer, I don't push soccer, but I don't have a problem with it. I think the people using the soccer fields, I think it's a terrific activity and I welcome it. And I don't have a problem going down there when the soccer's on. But these notice of motions and this constant badgering of this council, when we're going to have a Chief Scientist report and the guidelines coming out at some point, probably this year, it's just over the top, it's divisive, and it is not helpful whatsoever to our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a mum too, and I'm a soccer mum. And my kids are little, 7 and 12, and since 2019 they've endured stifling smoke from bushfires, floods, heat waves. A heat wave last week in autumn. I don't remember any heat waves in autumn in the rest of my life. And it's scary. I can't let them ride their bikes to school when they want to, when the conditions are like that. And we as public leaders have a duty of care to those children, to my children, to other children. Quincy, my son, who's 7, got elected to the Student Representative Council recently, which I'm very proud of. And the first motion he took to his council was that the school should install sprinklers and they should be allowed to wear swimmers to school because it was so hot. I think he got a few laughs, but actually there's a serious side to why he was asking that. I think what we can agree here is that Bayside Council put a moratorium on synthetic fields because there was a lot of doubt about how safe they were, and they stopped the rollout. And I think for that we're all grateful. I think we can also agree that Bayside Council passed a motion that we would assess the safety of the fields when the Chief Scientist report came out. And I wish that had come out. I think we all do, because we wouldn't be here right now. We would have a policy. I think what's happening in between the delays is that we're continuing to have heat impacts. And I guess the question is, how long do we wait for this report that's tied up on the desk? Is it because of an election? I don't know. Does anybody know here? Or do we be proactive and come up with our own policy to address this in the meantime? And that is why I support this motion. Not because I'm anti-soccer, not because I'm anti-Banksia Tigers or pro-Friends of Gardiner Park. It's because we have a duty of care to our community. On Saturday, I went to the amazing event that Bayside Council hosted. at the St Joseph Banks Park, the opening of the park there with my 7-year-old. And it was hot. It was damn hot. It was so hot that I felt like I was melting and I was under an umbrella that I'd taken for shade. Some days we take our children out not knowing what temperatures we are going to face. And as a mother, I carry water, I carry a hat, I carry sunscreen, but I don't always know what I'm getting myself into when the climate is out of our control. So we might take our child to sport, but we don't know what is the impact of those temperatures. How hot is it going to get this day in the sun compared to the shade? That's why I think we actually do need to have a policy where temperatures are checked after a certain time and potentially soccer is closed after a certain time. And Bayside Council needs to be part of that policy. We also just a few weeks ago were presented with Bayside's Environment Strategy and Resilience Plan 2023-2030 on the 15th of March. Now that came about because of a motion Councillor Werner put up at the beginning of the term last year where she was asking for a climate emergency to be declared. And instead, Councillor Jansen put another...
Councillor Douglas,
Yeah.
that was an information. That's not a public document, so it can't be referred to or discussed at this point in time.
Okay. When will that become public?
Well, it will have to go to committee first and then go to full council.
Okay. Well, in the briefing that we had as councillors and having read the documentation, there were 4 key points in there where we have to address the impact.
Yeah, but
So
we...
having that information already, knowing that we need to have these policies, it's very hard to ignore a motion like this that comes before us after having recently been briefed.
Hence why there is a lot of work happening, and council is working through a number of things in line with awaiting for the chief scientist's report. So that work is being undertaken, and therefore, because it's not a public document, I can't have you referring to it at this point in time because it's not endorsed by council and therefore it's not complete.
Can you speak to the mic, please?
Sorry, I don't think this motion should just be dismissed as part of an ongoing war between residents. I think we should look at this for what it factually is. It's a call for duty of care now rather than waiting for some document to land on our desk. Who knows when? What, in another 12 months? After how many more heat waves are we going to wait to come up with a policy to address this ongoing issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Cedric.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't want to get up, but I just need to give my 2 cents. Forgive me. First, I want to thank the passionate speakers, the youth and the clubs and the leaders. This is amazing to see such a positive turnout. But I think what's really going on here, and I'm hearing all the comments, and I want to thank my fellow councillors. This is not about heat concern. Let's be real. And if we want to be real, this has been going on for years now. First, there was the fight against synthetic fields, totally. Then it was about the high fences, fighting the high fences, and which I don't get because, like Councillor Savranovsky says, neighbours want fences so the balls don't go into their lounge room. And if you don't have fences, then how do you police the usage? Then it was about the overcapitalisation of the grounds, that we're using it way too much. And now, which was last month, and now we're saying it's heat concern. So every month, every few months, it comes back again with another tactic. With all due respect to Councillor Werner, to Councillor Douglas, and to the speakers that spoke for this motion, this is coming back again and again and again. And all I'm asking is, 1, what is next? What's the next Gardiner Park attack? And I don't like to get involved in this debate myself, But let's be real. It's not about heat concern. As you heard, if it was, we'd be fighting the other synthetic fields, which I love playing on myself, whether it be at Rockdale, at Arncliffe, at Brighton, or on the east side. We'd be fighting those synthetic fields. But we're not. We're fighting Banksia, Gardiner's Park. We'd be fighting the tennis courts, the basketball courts, which I love. We'd be fighting the concrete playgrounds, which is every single council across Australia. There is concrete on the floor. I would advise that the Greens Party fight the concrete jungle. Stop concrete on the footpaths. Stop the sands in the beach, like Councillor Naji said, because all this is way too hot. What we're seeing is, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, and again and again and again, we're fighting each other. Councillor Hannah said it, we're being divisive. The true issue is, and I want everyone to come back to this, are we forgetting, and Councillor Hannah, we're forgetting what Gardiner's Park looked like. It was a bomb. It was uneven surfaces. It was injuries every week. I played on it myself. These parks were atrocious. And what council did was come up with solutions which cost us so much money. So much money. We don't want to just waste our money. We're serving the community here. And when you see these wonderful ladies and youth and people in the audience, you're thinking, wow, this is what we want. This is what we want. We don't want the Green Army to come up here and get on Facebook and attack Councillor Tunis because he's got an opinion against synthetic or for synthetic. Let people play. Where do you want the kids to go? If you're really worried about the heat, start attacking the concrete. There's a concrete downstairs here. The footpaths are all full of concrete. So my final perspective is, with all due respect to the speakers that spoke against synthetic grass, we're going on and on again. You've lost the court battle. You've lost the court battle. Let the kids play. Let council do what we've got to do. If you don't like it, vote us out. Vote us out. Vote Green. But enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sedgwick. Councillor Barlow.
I'll be very brief, but I was very pleased to hear about the extreme heat policy that all soccer clubs or all, I think, sporting bodies follow. And I have that confidence in any club that would follow that. So that means that the kids are protected. Talking about, and you know, my son did play soccer, my daughter didn't play any, she did play hockey down at Gardiner Park in the dirt bowl many years ago. And talking about heat, I know it seems to have changed, but in 1970, when I lived in Adelaide, we went down there for my husband's work. There was 12 days of it not less than 90 degrees per day, which is 32 degrees. It did not get less than that for 12 days straight. Adelaide, there's a lady over here that comes from Adelaide, would know how hot it is. I was so used to a sea breeze. Adelaide doesn't have it, surrounded by hills. And we ended up going and sleeping on the beach. I don't think you could do it today, but it was extreme. I think it still is, but we're so used to a sea breeze here, or I am anyway. But the area, I've just got to be confident that all the any sporting club obviously must have an extreme heat policy, and they're following it. So we've got to have that confidence. And as a chairperson of the Gardiner Park Reference Group, there is plenty of natural grass there, but it is not used. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about residents going there and deliberately letting their dogs off. Councillor Hannah and I were there one day, and this lady just let a dog off to play ball. She could have gone up to the top playing area. There's no one there. No, she had to play on that bit there. So that is a constant, and it's deliberate, I feel, that I will just let the dogs off here. So, I mean, one day there was 10 dogs there. Now, where did they all come from? So, in other words, I'm just confident that I think hearing the speakers tonight that the kids are protected because they have to stop playing. So, and you know, you can extreme, you know, the sand, concrete. I mean, I don't like the beach, so I don't go there. But I can remember it being very hot down there too.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Are there any other speakers?
Just quickly, and it's true, I'll be very brief. All I'm going to say is I'm foreshadowing a motion when the discussion is over. And just to say, remind people and apologise for the club, because we started this meeting at 7. I'm not going to talk about heat. Everyone mentioned everything else. I have to apologise for the club. We started at 7 tonight. It's almost 10 to 9. This is recurring every single council meeting. And my point is, stop. Every single motion that's come to this council on every council meeting has been covered by the court. And then we have spent close to $1 million defending that. So the bottom line is, the Friends of Gardiner Park, and whatever the name is now, they've actually wasted
I'll just get a seconder if you want to foreshadow this.
Yeah.
Seconded, Councillor Soonest,
Thank you,
and
Councillor
then
Soonest.
we're, yeah, you continue.
So basically, it's wasting ratepayers' money, and that's what they should be looking at. And they're wasting the staff time, councillors' time. We've spent close to 1.5 hours, so that shouldn't be at council tonight. But I will be foreshadowing after the discussion is over.
But that's it. Yeah, that's, do it now.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, actually, number one, I'd like to remove, because I'll just make a note that Councillor Soonest has picked up on, and you're the seconder, about the petition mentioned something about constructed without community consultation. It doesn't reflect truth. And if it doesn't reflect truth, I was happy to put receive a note, but we haven't seen the petition. So I'm not willing to put number one. I did that have on my foreshadow, but I would be saying, council note that there is a chief scientist report pending in relation to weather field, to all-weather field, due to be released this calendar year. And once the report is released, a report will be provided to council at that time. And I guess we could take it to an information session. We could have, I mean, talking about, you know, having a policy. You can't have a policy based on nothing. And no other LGA, no other council will have a policy. Every single council is waiting for the chief scientist report. So that's my foreshadow motion. I hope you would support it.
Rwanda,
Thank you.
just if we could add, I'm not sure if your intention is correct, but would you rather that we don't have anything to do with Gardiner's Park again until this is released? Is that what you mean to?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can't
think
do
that would be in order.
Democracy.
The GM would confirm that.
Madam Mayor, Councillor White, if I could just make a suggestion. I think we need to try and enhance this a bit, I think, and make it clearer. We need to include the Department of Planning and Environment guidelines, because the Chief Scientist's report will inform the development of the guidelines. The guidelines will be released by the Department of Planning and Environment, and it's those guidelines that will then inform councils such as ours. So I'm thinking that possibly you need to put some more words with that.
Which would be the chief scientist's report, but yeah, we can unpack it. So you're happy to accept that amendment? Okay, councillors, so we have a foreshadowed motion. We have the original motion. So if there's no more speakers, we have the right of reply in a moment to the original motion. We will then vote on the original motion, but the foreshadow's there. So there's no more speakers. Councillor Werner, your right of reply.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to say that I was also a soccer mum, and my son played for the Banksia Tigers. And also my husband coached for the Banksia Tigers. So the Banksia Tigers is our much loved local soccer club. And this motion is nothing to do with the Banksia Tigers. We as a family were part of the Banksia Tigers family. And I just want to say that I'm really glad that Banksia Tigers takes the Football New South Wales Extreme Heat advice very seriously, and I thank you for letting us know about that as well. So the other thing that I noticed that Councillor Naji, I noticed Councillor Naji asked if there has been any, or if there have been any serious injuries, and I would just like to ask, why are we waiting for serious injuries to happen? Why do we need to wait for something to happen before we do anything?
Point of order.
That wasn't my intention. Are we going to wait for something to happen? I'm just was pointing out that there was no injuries, nothing been reported. So that's my actual intention. Councillor Werner is trying to say that indirectly or verbally me to say that, I'm waiting for something to happen, or that's the intent that she thinks. That's not true.
Thank you. Point of order upheld. Move on to the next point, please, Councillor Werner.
Sorry, I can't hear.
The Chief Scientist report is cabinet in confidence, and we don't know how long the government is going to sit on that report. We don't know when it's going to come out, and so that's why I think we need to act quickly on this. And the next thing I'd like to say is that this petition was brought by residents. It wasn't brought by me. None of the petitions were brought by me. It's brought by the residents of Banksia who live around Gardiner Park. And so people saying, oh, you know, Councillor Werner shouldn't keep bringing these motions forward. I am acting on the advice of residents. I'm meant to represent the residents. They are residents in Ward 3 and I am their representative. When they send me a petition, why would I not table that? It's really, really important when residents go to the effort of creating a petition, it's very important that we table them at council and that we have an opportunity to speak about them. And if we like trying to stop.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
With respect, I think Councillor Werner is misleading the chamber. I can't recall unless, you know, I'm deaf, partially deaf, or I've got dementia. No one has mentioned that Councillor, in a matter of fact, I praised Councillor Werner and for her democratic right to bring a notice of motion. No one said that she can't do that. And she's misleading the chamber by saying, you know, she's being criticised for bringing a notice of motion and that she shouldn't be doing that. No one ever said that. Any councillor said that she shouldn't do that? No. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You've got another minute, Councillor Werner.
Okay, that's interesting that I've got a minute when a lot of the other councillors have been going on and on and on, and you're saying that it's like nearly 9 o'clock.
Councillor Werner, would you like to use your time or not? Please proceed.
Yes, I would, and I've got a few more things to say. So, another thing that I noticed is that people have been casting doubt on scientific evidence. So I won't name names of councillors, but the University of Western Sydney, has a report.
When a point of order has been called, you have to stop, and the point of order has.
Madam Mayor, I've had enough of this. Listen to this rubbish.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you.
No one's ever questioned it. What we've said was, let's wait for the chief scientist. No one here, nobody has questioned any one of the consultants or supposedly experts. We've said the chief scientist. I respectfully ask for you, for Councillor Warner, to move Channel 9. Are you for real? Okay, are you for real, mate? Channel 9? Well, I respectfully ask her to withdraw that point. Nobody has questioned. I can get up on the song and dance here and talk about the Greens policy about legalising all forms of drugs, but I don't. Let's get real. Let's stick to the facts, the facts, the facts, the facts. That's my point of order.
Thank you, and I will stick to the facts. The fact is that Dr. Sebastian Fauch is actually a very well-respected scientist, and he has measured 88 degrees. I myself have actually measured 91 degrees Celsius on Gardiner Park on a very hot day. Now, the University of Western Sydney has brought out a report about heat in schools. And in that report, what they have found, scientists have found that synthetic grass is actually hotter than bitumen. It is the hottest surface that you can possibly have. That is why it is so dangerous. It's hotter than bitumen, it's hotter than concrete, it's hotter than...
Point of order.
Please sit down, Councillor Werner.
I'll have a point of order. The entire basis of today's motion, notice of motion, is surrounding the petition. Now, the petition, I'm asking the question now, did that have that information attached to the document that people signed? Were they aware of what University of Western Sydney did? Were they aware what the professor did, how he measured it, all those parameters? I don't think so. So we've misled those people to a point, and you're misleading the chamber now. That's what I see.
Thank you, Councillor Souness.
Please, a point of order, I don't think anybody should say anybody is misleading the other. There's a lot of what I can see is bullying going on in this chamber at the moment.
Okay, please summarise, Councillor Werner.
And I haven't finished yet because now people are bringing up things that the Greens in the Inner West have done. That's a completely different local group. But interestingly, they have said that synthetic may be appropriate, okay, in some cases. For example, perhaps hockey fields, because synthetic hockey fields, as far as I understand, are actually safer than the grass hockey field. So in that case, it's actually more appropriate for a synthetic field to be built. So, the issue is with
Madam Mayor. That does not state that. It does not state that in the document about hockey fields.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Saranowski.
I was just giving an example of that there may be times when synthetic is appropriate.
It doesn't say that.
All right.
But, okay, no, I'll finish now. In the case of Gardiner Park in particular, also Arncliffe Park, those fields, council's own consultant said not to build them there. Council's own consultant said not to build them in Arncliffe Park and Gardiner Park.
I think, Councillor Werner, excuse me, Councillor Werner, when I start speaking, please sit down and stop speaking. That is the code of meeting practice. Councillor Werner, we are focused on the motion in front of us, which is about heat. We're not, please summarise, this is your right of reply, and you've already gone for 7 minutes, so finish up now, please.
Yes, okay, I will finish up. I'm just replying to things that other councillors have said that I need to reply to. I need to be able to put right things that other people have said and just provide the actual factual information. So that's why this is taking so long, because other people have said so many things that really need a reply. Okay, so we have this motion in front of us now. I know we've spoken about this for long enough. What I'm saying is, just to sum up, this is not about Banksia Tigers, this is about heat, and it's not even just about organised sport. There are other kinds of sport that are played on there as well, informal sport, and I think we really, really need to consider our role in protecting not just children, other people who may use those fields, and that's why I think we need for council to develop a policy on heat.
Okay, councillors, we have a motion in front of us. So it's the original motion. We also have a foreshadowed motion, but we deal with the original motion, which you can see on the screen. And so noting that a petition was only tabled at the meeting, and most councillors have not had the opportunity to review that. So all those in favour of the original motion say aye. Those against? I declare the motion lost.
Division.
We've had a division called, so this means we will go around the table. For for or against the original motion, Councillor Morrissey.
Against.
Councillor Muscat. Councillor Fidel. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Naji. Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas. Councillor McDougall. Councillor Cedrat. And I'm against too. Therefore, I declare it lost. Thank you. That is the end of item 12.3. Oh, sorry, the foreshadowed motion. So that item's been lost. We have the foreshadowed motion in front of us.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can I just ask that be read, because I can't see. I heard it, but I can't see it on the screen. Can you just read?
Yep, certainly. Can we have the motion on the screen, please?
I can't see the screen.
Yeah,
if you could just read it,
No,
please.
I'll read it
Okay.
to you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Miss. One moment, Councillor Morrissey. Okay, Councillor Morrissey, can you hear me? So it's that council notes that there is a chief scientist report pending in relation to all weather fields due to be released this calendar year, including the Department of Planning and Environment guidelines, and that once this information or this report is released, a report will be provided to council. So that is the foreshadowed motion that is in front of us now. All those in favour say aye.
Before we deal with this,
Sorry.
Can I just ask a question of the mover and the seconder? Come Sunday, there'll be new government. I think what we should do is write to our local member, all our local members, and seeking their support for the release of this document as soon as possible. I'm sure that under a Minns-Labor government, this report will be made available because Premier Minns, to be elected, has an open door policy and will certainly be pleased to release this document. So I think we can write to all our local members and seeking their support, because through you, it is outrageous for this document to be held collecting dust. And I must agree with Councillor Warner and Councillor Douglas on this. It is absolutely disgraceful, because the Minister of Planning at the time did a big song and dance and gave the impression this was going to be released. Minister Stokes. All of a sudden he did a backflip and said, I don't support it, then I support it, I don't employ it. And now they're sitting on some minister's desk collecting dust.
You're happy to accept that, Councillor Wada and Councillor Souness? All right, so Councillor Morrissey, you heard that?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have the foreshadowed motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, I declare that carried. All right. Thank you, councillors. That takes us to the next item, which is 12.4, Notice of Motion Bayside Artist in Residence Program. So we have one speaker, Mrs. Tina Workman, who is for the motion.
Sharita, when we talk about Gardiner Park. Okay. I'm actually really excited by this motion that was pulled up by Councillor Jansen, and I'm even more excited that we've actually filled the position of Arts and Culture Specialist at Bayside Council. I think it'll make a big difference to the focus that we have at Council. If you use Google Earth and ask it to locate galleries, museums and studios in New South Wales, the map of the state's actually filled with all those little red pin dots everywhere. And there's all these wonderful creative spaces, and many of them are supported by their councils. But when you scroll in, you soon see that all those red pins are located in LGAs just skirting Bayside. On plan, Bayside's like a creative desert devoid of creative spaces. And yet Bayside has an enormous number of creatives living here. Actors, curators, photographers, writers, musicians, actors, filmmakers. And the problem is that they don't have any spaces to practice their art in this LGA. They actually have to go outside of our LGA. There are no spaces for them to work, and there's no spaces for them to exhibit or to perform if they're musicians or whatever. Georges River did an exhaustive cultural needs assessment in 2019, which found that the most important types of spaces to include in cultural facilities are exhibition and gallery spaces, and they identified artist studios as a priority. They already had these facilities when they did this, and we have none of these facilities, none at all. Although I suspect that our draft plan will identify similar needs. Georges River also has the council-run Hurstville Museum and Art Gallery, which is about to become part of a huge arts precinct. I don't know if, I'm sure many of you would have already read the Create Georges River plans, and it's pretty impressive. But wouldn't it be amazing if we actually could create a similar arts precinct in Rockdale that connects our wonderful library and our Art Deco Town Hall to a new arts centre across the road? It would also be wonderful when, or should I say if, we finally reopen the only standalone museum in the Bayside area, Lytham Hall, which has been closed for 3 years. Most councils have residency placements. Georges River has the excellent Cars Park Artists Cottage. It's nothing flash, it's actually, just a small house, 1 bedroom, but it's enough and it's really highly sought after by artists. Sutherland Council has the amazing Hazelhurst Arts Centre, which incorporates their residency in that 1920s cottage, which also houses an amazing arts library and function rooms. Inner West and Randwick Council have a plethora of these places, and it's too numerous to mention those tonight. We are the only one that are missing these things. For a residency program, Bayside has a unique position because of our location in Botany Bay. The location and history makes it a fertile ground for artists, and the possibilities for inspiration are endless. Having an immersive, dedicated studio space where an artist can surround themselves with their art away from their usual environment is such a unique opportunity for artists in the development of the art and their art and their practice. And it's a wonderful way for council to support local artists, and if it's in the right facility, a way for the community to interact with artists, because there's nothing the community likes more than actually seeing artists at work. And as the General Manager notes, a residency program has already been included as part of the draft arts and culture strategy that will be issued in May. And I really hope that this is the start of a new focus for our council that at least brings us in line with our neighbouring LGAs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a motion in front of us moved Councillor Jansen, seconded Councillor Fardell. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I would echo the words of Mrs. Workman, and I'm pleased that she appeared to speak on this. And I also believe that this is a start of a good opportunities to link together some missing creative elements in Bayside. So the motion asks for an investigation into different artist in residence schemes for Bayside, knowing that there's many different kinds of programs out there. Some of them are funded to different levels, they occupy different spaces, they have different levels of community engagement, but the key element of residency programs is that they allow artists to practice, but also that community engagement element, which is where local government is a really important driver in that residency practice. It's about some level of developing public programs. So I was pleased to see the GM comments on this motion, because that was the first I had heard of that. So I was very excited to see that. And I think that Bayside does need to do a bit of an audit about these residency programs to develop a model that is the best fit for Bayside. So I hope this is supported tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Councillor Souness.
Far be it for me to be the pebble in the arts program, pebble in the shoe of the arts program. Look, I'll support it. At the end of the day, why not? We're doing a lot of things that are community based. But the first question I would ask, and we had this conversation a few weeks ago, the people who do not have footpaths, go there and ask them first. Are you interested in an arts program or having a footpath outside your house because you've never had one for X number of years? So realistically, let's do that first and then we can do this. But that's fine. We've just got to have a focus on our minimum things that we should be doing. And the minimum things are the roads. Okay, the rubbish is managed very well. Potholes, things like that we've got to manage. We've got to have adequate budgets so people do not complain, and then we can have I'd like to have this, I'd like to have that down the track. That's fine. But I'm not going to not support this. But like I said, our focus has to be maintained and clear on the people that are not getting the services they should be getting.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure, I did have a resident contact me about this concept, and I did actually refer that resident to Councillor Jansen. I don't know whether you got a phone call from her, because I knew Councillor Jansen was the one that could handle this, and this is certainly not something that I'm going to give the brush off to. And in regards, I'll give you the good oil on it, I'm telling you. And I note Councillor Souness's comments regarding the footpath, and it immediately springs to mind chalk art and the word eternity. Oh, it's been done before. I think this is terrific, and I think as a local government area we probably were fairly devoid of this sort of thing, so if we can nurture it and bring it along, I think it's a fantastic initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Any further speakers? Councillor Barlow.
Just a comment. Yes, I'm really excited that we should be doing this, but you know, when Ms. Workman mentioned McMahon Gallery, we are so lucky that the residents fought to save that building because it was about to be pulled down. I lived opposite. We were renting at the time at 13 McMahon Street, and I remember the fight that the residents had to put up to save the building. So that was something that was good. It'd be nice if we had a benefactor that wants to leave us a property like Hazelhurst Art Gallery. That would be brilliant because that is a fantastic site, but it was given to Sutherland Council. They then had to find the money to upgrade it and do everything else. But so there is a lot, you know, it'd be nice to, you know, we've got to find a space, and I agree with that. I know there's a lot of, you've got film studios and that on the other side in the Botany area and all the factories. So there is, I mean, I was surprised at one we went to and it was a film studio.
Yeah,
so
there's
ceramics, places,
pottery, art studios.
Yeah, there's places there, but there doesn't seem to be anything around in the Rockdale area except the Banksia Art Gallery run by Noel.
Don't forget our new Arts and Cultural Centre.
And our cultural centre. So that's what I mean. That's what I feel that everyone's excited about because we're suddenly going to have a space that we can have a look. And even in Launceston at Cataract Gorge, there's a building there that is left is there for artists and residents. Anyone can go there. I mean, they have to book it in and they've got to be prepared to live in Tasmania or Launceston when the time. Just don't go in winter. So and we've got Pink Cactus, which is quite famous, the one that did the Van Gogh and all the sunflowers. So they're in the Burmill Street. So we have got areas, but not a pocket. And I think there is a lot more in the Botany area because of the industrial sites that are available. I'm quite happy to support it.
Thanks, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Douglas?
Yes, I'd also really like to support this motion for an artist in residence program in Bayside. I myself am a filmmaker and have 25 years experience filmmaking and have won lots of international awards for my filmmaking. And I know as an artist, it is a struggle. I have myself been the lucky recipient of artist in residence programs, which have enabled me to focus on my work, my practice for 5 days without the children around distracting me. And it's a real gift when somebody provides that space to you. It also is a gift that you give back to the community, because as an artist in residence, you come and you highlight that area, you incorporate that into your work, and you also give back to the local economy, whether it's visiting the local cafes or, you know, the op shop or whatever it might be. So I think it will really help to raise the profile of Bayside to do a program like this, but it'll also encourage all of those artists who, like me, work in their garage, in their spare room, in their sunroom, to say, we value you artists, we value the artists of Bayside, and we are working hard, and I'm really proud of that we are working hard to create new policies to show that value to all our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. All right, if you want to...
Can I just add a quick point? If we could, it doesn't have to be in the motion. I wholeheartedly agree with it. But if we could also focus on, in particular, youth and teenagers, I think this is an awesome vehicle for youth, kids, whether it be graffiti, whatever it may be. This is a great way to really, really harness the youth. And I would love to see, you know, in the future competitions and what have you. So I'm sure we could add that throughout.
That's a good point, Councillor Cedric, and it's asking a report will come back to committee, and then that's the opportunity for councillors to add those great suggestions when we have something.
And the Youngcliff Youth Centre has a music room and an art.
It does, that's true. Councillor Jansen-Ryder, reply.
I just wanted to thank all the councillors for speaking tonight, and I do hear what Councillor Souness is saying, but I think the view of councils delivering roads, rates and rubbish only is quite an old school view, and I'm proud that councils are kind of becoming more innovative in the cultural space. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. All right, we've got a motion on the screen in front of us. All those in favour say aye. Against, I declare it carried. Okay, that brings us to 12.5, notice of motion, Friends of Garden Park.
Madam
Yes,
Chair, can I
Councillor
withdraw
Souness.
this motion, please?
You'd like to withdraw
Yes,
the
please.
motion? Okay.
Given the late hour? Thank you.
Okay. All right, well then, I declare that motion has been withdrawn by Councillor Souness. Therefore, there will be no public forum for 12.5. Thank you. All right, councillors, I suggest we take a 5-minute recess, please.
I'm perfectly satisfied, thank you for asking.
All right, councillors, thank you. We're back on. We are now moving to the reports. So the first report, we have the 10.1, which is the 6-month progress report, operational plan 2022-23. Do I have a mover? Moved. Councillor Souness, seconded Councillor Wada. Any speakers?
I just had a very quick question. Page 85, 86, 2.33, which is City Life. It just mentions the Library Strategy and Action Plan was to be presented to Council at the first meeting in February 2023. I just wondered if we could have a quick update about that, just because I've had a lot of residents asking
Yeah, that's
about
coming to the April committee.
Okay.
So there was some additional work that was being done with, and in relation to the Trove and those things. So just making sure that, thank you. Any other questions?
Not a question, just a comment. Just like to thank the director for incorporating that infographic of Bayside at a glance. I thought that was
it's great.
really sort of informative. So thank you.
All right, no other speakers. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Okay, 10.2, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Naji, thank you. So this is 10.2, amendment to VPA Pagewood Green, 128 Bunurong Road and 120 Banks Avenue, Pagewood. Just for councillors, this is just related to some changes to the voluntary planning agreement, nothing to do with the actual change to the buildings. Is that correct? Yep. It's the underground parking. Yep. Move Councillor Wada, second Councillor Souness. Any speakers? No. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Please invite Councillor McDougall and Naji in.
It's a voluntary planning agreement.
Thank you. Item 10.3, Sydney Gateway Active Transport Strategy. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Jansen. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, this is very exciting, and I congratulate the work of council on this. I just had one suggested addition, which I've sent through to Fausto, which he will be putting up on the screen. And this comes about both from community consultation I've been doing, and also because of what Councillor Muscat mentioned when we were having the briefing about this, and the importance of the east-west corridor, for the active transport corridor, because we do really want to unite our communities and make it more easier to access back and forth across the sides of Bayside. So the addition is that Council advised Transport for New South Wales that Bayside residents would benefit most from improvements in east-west active transport corridor connections, and that Council preference is for Priority 4 Joyce Drive connection to Wentworth Avenue and Priority 5 Howard Street to be advanced ahead of the other projects.
Any speakers?
Just to clarify, how does that impact on
the project?
Does council have any kind of ability to lobby for that? Because is this not a state government plan? So what would the addition of point 3, like how would that be executed? Yep,
the GM to respond.
Through the Mayor, Council certainly has the ability to put forward its priorities, but I think we need to also understand that there's been a substantial amount of background work done by Transport for New South Wales, and I think the Director mentioned that the first 2 priorities in accordance with the plan, work is substantially commenced on those. So they've done a lot more of the detailed design on the first couple of priorities as they identified them. Alexandria, Canal and Howard Street definitely are more advanced than the others. So while you might want to resolve to express your interest and desire for the east-west connections to be prioritised, I think practically it won't supersede option 1 and 2, the first two that are well advanced in the projects. But a general, we could certainly do some sort of a general letter to Transport for New South Wales saying, you know, we have identified that those connections are really important. It might be bring them forward, not supersede anything else, but bring them forward and do them more quickly than perhaps Transport have planned for.
So then, Councillor Douglas, can I suggest, would you be comfortable with the council inform Transport for New South Wales that Bayside residents benefit most from improving the East-West Council's preference priority for to be considered as priorities? Seconder? Second, Councillor Jansen. All right, any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Muscat.
Is there some way that we can include in there that the public transport that operates from Botany, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring this up, we've been neglected in that if we're going to have these active gateway, that we need to include that all areas have access to it. Because at the moment, the area of Botany all the way from Gardiner's Road down to Port Botany only has 2 buses that operate in the Botany area. One to get to Mascot's train station, and the other one only goes into Green Square. So we have no access other than that in the Port Botany area and Botany. Yep. So I mean, we're reliant heavily on those 2 buses. So is there something we can include that all areas of Bayside are given access?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think, and you know, your point is well made that there is a real issue with the buses, and unfortunately, you know, they have been privatised and routes changed without consultation. This active Sydney Gateway active transport doesn't actually include public transport such as buses. It's around cycleways and those. So it's Councillor Muscat, can I suggest that you when we do questions of notice, you ask a question with notice, asking to write to the new government about bus routes. All right, no other speakers. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Okay, this takes us to 10.6, which is the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly proposed motions. Moved Councillor Nargi, seconded Councillor Jansen. Councillor Nargi, would you like to speak to it? Councillor Jansen? Or any other, any other speakers? Councillor Hannah?
Yeah, I'd just like to raise a suggestion regarding the motion about superannuation, which is Councillor Werner's motion, and I don't intend to take anything away from that motion, but just as a point of clarification, I think in the explanatory note, it said that clause 15 of the Local Government State Award 2020 required employees to contribute to the local government superannuation scheme and no other scheme. I don't believe that's correct. I think that's, my advice is that that's if the employee doesn't nominate their own scheme, then it's a default provision to ensure that the superannuation contributions land in a complying fund. So that's just, I just wanted to put that on the record. I don't think that explanatory note is actually correct. The other thing I wanted to suggest is, and Councillor Werner might want to consider this as an amendment, because this doesn't take away from what she's proposing. I thought that we could add another point, point number 4, that we encourage all superannuation funds to offer members various investment choices, including environmentally friendly ones. Would you be happy to?
Isn't that already
Can
the
you please
case?
stand up, Councillor?
Isn't that already the case? Like, people can choose. I'm not sure about what you're saying, that whether people can choose a super fund or not. And in any case, that's in the explanatory notes, not in the actual motion. But if it is true what you're saying, then they can already choose what fund they use.
That's correct, Madam Mayor, but I think you will find that not all super funds offer a range of investment choices, and there will be some super funds that don't offer an environmentally friendly super choice or a green choice. So what I'm actually suggesting is enhancing your motion, because what I'm saying is that what you might want to think about is encouraging all compliant superannuation funds to offer investment choices for members, including an environmentally friendly one. Because at the moment there are superannuation funds that don't offer an environmentally friendly one. So that, what I'm actually suggesting to you will enhance your
Yeah,
motion.
okay.
Please stand up.
That's fine. I agree with that.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor McDougall.
Sorry, I just have some questions around the same motion, and perhaps Councillor Werner can help with this. So I don't really understand, how did this sort of take into account the fiduciary duties that superannuation funds have towards their members? Yeah.
This motion is actually an advocacy motion calling on the Australian government to encourage super funds that cater to local employees to divest from fossil fuels, and that's this proposed motion for Australian Local Government Association. Yeah. So you're asking, how does this motion reflect the fiduciary commitments to people who have superannuation? I think it actually reflects that through its consideration of the environmental options that it provides to people, because that's actually you know, that we're actually finding that especially with gas prices going up and things like that, things like renewable energy are actually cheaper now. So if the government had invested more in renewable energy, we wouldn't be in this position where we're now paying much more for our gas, and therefore much more for energy than we otherwise would. So I don't know where that question's coming from.
So just so this second point says, take immediate action to ensure the integrity and accountability of carbon offset programs while supporting and funding councils to directly reduce operational and community emissions. Is this talking about carbon offset programs within super funds, saying that super funds should be funding council programs? Sorry, I'm not.
Sorry. As you know, that there are carbon offsets that scientists are telling us are not working properly. So what this is saying is that super funds shouldn't invest in companies that are using these dodgy carbon offsets that don't even work.
Can I just get you to stand? Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor, and sorry, Councillor Morrissey. And then it follows on and says, while supporting and funding councils to directly reduce operational and community emissions. So is this saying super funds should do that?
This is primarily advocating that the Australian government encourage super funds to behave better in terms of the way that they advertise their products as well, because there's a lot of greenwashing going on. And even though ASIC is taking on greenwashing cases, it's doing this under the misleading and deceptive conduct provisions of the Corporations Act. And the threshold for proving that a corporation has engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct is actually really high. So what point 3, for example, is trying to achieve is specific legislation which bans any extent of greenwashing being engaged in by superannuation funds that cater to the local government sector throughout Australia, and thereby introducing a much higher standard of environmental and ethical performance from these corporations. So basically the whole motion is, it's in 3 parts. So it encourages the local government super funds to divest from companies that are engaging in extraction of fossil fuels, native forest logging, gambling, weapons manufacturing, and tobacco, and also to take immediate action to ensure the integrity and accountability of carbon offset programs, while supporting and funding councils to directly reduce operational and community emissions through the rollout of local renewable energy infrastructure and other greenhouse gas reducing initiatives. So it's just saying that taking immediate action to ensure the integrity of carbon offsets doesn't stop us from also doing our own bit at council to reduce our emissions and so on. Does that answer your question?
I might be able to assist here. I think what Councillor Werner is proposing is that the Australian government doesn't mandate, but is encouraging superannuation funds to invest in environmentally friendly activities. That's what she's asking for. And she's also asking for funding for local government, not from the superannuation funds. So I don't think it impacts on the fiduciary duties of the superannuation funds to act in the best interest of their members. That's the reason why I proposed point 4, to try and make it clear that what this is attempting to do is to just broaden the field to get some of the superannuation funds to think more environmentally friendly, provide that as an investment option if members choose that option, not force them into that option. And it will be a matter for the superannuation fund whether the superannuation funds decide to divest themselves of, all these companies that are apparently operating environmentally. Noting that, companies like BHP are digging up the copper that goes into electric batteries for electric cars. So, I mean, there's balance to all this stuff. So that's why I'm trying to introduce balance to say, leave the choice in the hands of the member, have complying superannuation funds offer a full suite of investment options, and then the member can choose which track they want to go down.
Thank you,
so I think,
Councillor. Councillor Jansen?
Look, I don't think I can support this particular motion. I'm happy with the other 2, but I just don't understand the implications of this clearly. As far as I believe, I don't think it's ALGWA's role to advocate to government to advocate elsewhere. I think it's ALGWA's role, if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, to advocate to government on local government issues. So I don't really understand the full implications of this. So I personally, I can't support this particular motion to ALGWA.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Any other speakers?
Well, I actually thought, I couldn't really understand it as well. I thought that a super fund is there to make money for their members. They are not there to say, well, we will just go somewhere else, because the people might leave that fund. But then I went, it's Inner West sort of just approved it, or I think they approved it. And when I finally got into their website, I hate council websites, I really hate them. And I listened to the meeting. I couldn't work out if they had a debate on that one at all, because I couldn't hear the person that said something, and then it might have dropped out. But this is totally verbatim from Inner West, and I don't feel that, personally, that I know Councillor Hannah's moved an amendment to make it, but it is, I thought it was up to the individual to pick their own super fund. If it is, I mean, he said it's a correction, but...
Hang on, no, just let Councillor Barlow finish.
So that was all I'm saying, is that it worries me that we're going to an Australian local government conference with a saying that we've got to divest our thing. Are they going to lose money from their super funds or what? I don't know. I found it quite ambiguous, the whole thing.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow.
Can I propose a foreshadowed motion that, so without point 4 in this one, but point 1 becomes that the motions 1 and 2 be submitted for the National General Assembly. Delete number 3, yes.
Okay, so we've got a foreshadowed motion in front of us. So do I have a seconder for the foreshadow? Can we do that? Okay, so we have Councillor Jansen and Councillor Nargi for the foreshadowed. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the original motion? Councillor Werner, do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Hannah. All right, so we have that proposed motion. Because you are now the mover of that motion, is there any other speakers before we have right of reply? Thank you.
Just have a suggestion in terms of the motion. I think the bit that sort of jumps out to me is maybe a little bit confusing is that it talks about super in point 1 and point 3, but the middle bit, point 2, is about carbon offsets, and it doesn't show me how it relates to superannuation. I think if we removed or separated out point 2 and made a separate motion that was specific to carbon offsets, that point 1 and point 3 could be combined, and it's very much then just about we're advocating to the federal government. There is a federal minister for superannuation who would have ruling and jurisdiction in this, and that is the point of the ALGWA conference, is to advocate to the federal ministers to provide support for local government. So we could have it as point 1, actively encourage the federal minister responsible for superannuation to encourage local government super funds to divest, ...
Are you happy to accept that amendment? Are you?
No, look, Madam Mayor, I'm doing my best to be conciliatory tonight to try and help people. I'm just that kind of person. I'm just trying to help Councillor Werner here. I think by the sound of it, I'm just wondering whether or not if we delete point 1, 2 and 3 and have my point 4, it keeps it very, very simple that people can understand, and you're still going to get your point across about environmentally friendly. Because what it does is allows the members' choice, and it's encouraging all complying superannuation funds to provide an environmentally friendly investment option along with other investment options.
I really appreciate you trying to help. What I'm actually wondering is if I could ask through the chair, the general manager or any of the other directors here, whether they are aware of what the requirements are under the award in terms of joining a super fund.
So I didn't come prepared to answer a detailed question like that here tonight, but I think my understanding is there is a default super fund, the local government super fund. There are two versions of that at the moment, the retirement fund and the accumulation scheme. If people wish to enter into a self-managed super fund or another super fund, they are able to do that with the approval of the general manager. It's rare, but it certainly is possible.
Thank you. So are you saying that it's rare for people to be in a different super fund, or is it? Yeah, so most...
That's correct. The vast majority of our staff would be in the fund. I think it's just going up to 10.5%. The contribution from council being 10.5% of their salary.
Okay, so then based on that information that most local government employees are with the local government super fund, I think it is really important that we as local government councillors take that into account and make sure that that super fund actually serves the local government workers and gives them an option of you know, an environmentally friendly option that's actually environmentally friendly and not doesn't have dodgy carbon offset companies, or you know, companies that are using the dodgy offsets, trying to greenwash and say that it's a green option when it actually isn't.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a foreshadowed motion. So we will deal with the original motion in front of us on the screen. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare it lost. We'll now put the foreshadowed motion.
Can I ask for a division? Thanks.
Is there a seconder for a division? Okay. So this is... All right. So this is on the original motion. So Councillor Morrissey.
Against.
Councillor Muscat. Councillor Fidel. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Nagy. Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas. Councillor McDougall. Councillor Cedric. I'm against. So declare that lost. We now put the foreshadowed motion. So foreshadowed motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare it carried. All right, councillors, thank you. That takes us to item 10.7, the ALGWA New South Wales Branch Annual Conference calling for nominations. Is there any councillor that would like to nominate to attend this conference? We have one nomination. It's the Women's Conference. So we have one nomination from Councillor Werner. Are there any other nominations? So can I have a mover? Moved Councillor Fardell, seconded Councillor Werner. All right, so we have one nomination. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to 10.8, Councillor Expenses and Facilities 6 monthly report. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Fardell, seconded Councillor Naji. Any speakers?
A mic, please.
Overseas travel. Interstate and overseas travel. The overseas travel has to be deleted because we do not pay anyone's expenses on overseas travel. It's paid for by yourself. And the other one was, I did ask the question, I still can't remember, I can't find the answer now, was about the super.
So we might just get a response to your first question.
Oh, now you've got it got.
Through the chair, I think if you, I know it's a bit difficult to read, those Roman numerals underneath simply link it back to the policy, which is based on the model policy.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that we're changing our internal policy about overseas travel, but that's just linking it back so it's standardised with the model policy.
Yeah, it just looks misleading because we've never claimed that.
As long as everyone stays zero, we're good.
Sorry?
As everyone stays zero in that column.
I mean, I'd question. And the other question I have is the fact that I don't, with the super funds lumped in as all councillors together. I want it noted, I do not take the super. I believe that it should be separated. There's a reason why, and I can't remember, I haven't figured out the reason yet, but the mayor's just separate and then all councils are lumped together. So I want it noted that I do not take the super because I don't think I should have been included in it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor
Just on that column of interstate, in the past, no, it doesn't exist now, we had the Mayoral Conference, we used to go all over the place. And there were some other conferences, we went to Alice Springs and so on. Maybe it should be there for a reason down the track.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. Also just noting there's also the supplementary item just to draw Councillor's attention just to that as well.
I was just going to say that I think you're right, Councillor Souness, because the conference in Canberra is in Canberra, that is interstate.
True.
So I just also wanted to ask, I wanted to ask about the difference between councillor professional development and conferences. I was under the maybe misguided thought that conferences actually were part of our professional development and that we were sort of we had to undergo professional development on an annual basis, which is partly why I put myself forward for the conferences. So I would just like some clarification around that matter.
Through the chair, for the same reason that we spoke earlier about the state and overseas travel, this is to align with the model policy. And so, yes, you're correct that attendance at a conference and reporting back on that conference can certainly form part of your professional development, but it is treated under the model policy as a separate expense as opposed to the induction program and things that we might run internally, training for all councillors internally.
Thank you. All right, no further questions? All right, I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. All right, it takes us to the minutes of the committee, 11.1, minutes of the City Services Committee meeting on the 1st of March. First item there, CS 28008, response to notice of motion Bayside advisory groups.
Yeah, I pulled that one out, but I am going to submit a question with notice instead. So happy if we just pass
Well, we
that.
still need a mover and a seconder because it's been withdrawn. Moved Councillor Jansen, seconded Councillor McDougall. No speakers. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to the second item in the 11.1, which is CW 23.009, the Voice to Parliament referendum. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Jansen, seconded Councillor McDougall. Any speakers?
I've moved an amendment. It was, I don't know where it is, but I have moved something. So now it's a foreshadow, something won't get up anyway.
Okay, we have a foreshadowed motion.
We have a foreshadowed motion.
I'll just read it for Councillor Morrissey, that the report be received and noted due to the fact that the federal government has agreed to legislation on how this year's referendum on an Indigenous voice to Parliament will be managed, that Council actively campaigns using their media outlets.
Yes,
Is that yours?
Yes.
Can we have the original motion? So we have the original motion that Council supports the Australian Government's proposal to amend the Constitution to include the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, that Council endorses and promotes to the community a vote for yes in the upcoming referendum on a voice to Parliament, that a plan be presented at the April committee demonstrating what internally funded actions will be taken to promote a vote for yes. So one moment, I need, for the foreshadowed motion, I need a seconder. Seconded Councillor Hannah. Thank you. So, so we go back to, we'll go back to the original motion, and so the mover of the motion, Councillor Jansen.
I'm still in support of this particular motion. I think it's very important, considering that Bayside falls within our first Indigenous federal minister in government. So I'm still heavily supportive of this particular motion. And I think even if Council is out there doing programs around the yes vote, the community still has a choice. So it's up to the community to decide ultimately. So I think that this is a very significant recommendation, and that it should be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen.
I'd just like to ask a question. Like, are we as an organisation, we've put together a yes proposal, and we're advertising on billboards and so on. Shouldn't we be doing a yes and no proposal, and people can choose? People will have the option. I understand Linda Burney's connection with Barton, but I believe that we should be, as a tier of government, offer the yes and no vote, or the yes and no argument, and then let people choose after that, rather than saying Bayside is yes or no. I know it's a foreshadowed motion, but I'm saying it just perplexes me to a point.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. So we've got the foreshadowed motion in front of us. So, so any more speakers?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, look, I'm not at a point where I can support the original motion, because I quite simply haven't got enough information on this. This is going to a referendum. There's going to be a detailed set of yes and no information sheets for voters to make their own mind up. And as we know, when you vote, it is a secret ballot. I might not even make my mind up until the day of the actual referendum. I mean, hopefully I will well before that. And it could well be that I'd be supporting something like this, but there's simply not enough information to be able to vote as a council to support a yes campaign when we don't really know how this is going to impact. So at the moment, I definitely don't feel comfortable about voting as a council to support a yes campaign. That's my position.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. If I can just make the point, there was a committee report where this derives from, and that committee report had a lot of information about the background and in that. So, yeah. All right. So, Councillor Barlow, you've already spoken.
The reason I read that committee report, and before I could say anything, I was on Teams and you cut the committee off. I read it as an independent. I read it again and again, and I could not believe what I read. I am an independent. I am not a member of a party. I'm not a member of whatever parties whatever that might be. But I could not believe a report that is written to say, we are going to tell everyone you have to vote yes. No, you don't have to vote yes. That is why I wrote that. Oh, well, I had to change it because suddenly federal government, we're talking about a federal issue here. Last month we were talking about can't do this because it's a state issue. This is a federal issue. And what I have written, if you could move my motion up a bit, was the fact that because the federal government now has agreed to legislation on how this referendum on the voice will be managed, we actively campaign using the media outlets. But I did put in there on the yes and no vote. That's missing from there. Now, the thing is, we are here representing, I think it's 190,000 people. There's Labor voters, there's Greens voters, there's Liberal voters, there's independent voters. And there could be even One Nation voters. But we are not here to instruct, well, I'm not here, sorry, to instruct the residents of Bayside on one issue. We are here to be fair. We are here to be neutral. Well, I am, sorry. I am. I can't handle I know how this is going to go. I'm very disappointed because I actually thought I was going to get mine up first. The foreshadow motion is just going to disappear and it won't even be on the agenda. But you have to, look, I don't even know why I'm speaking because I know how the vote's going to go. I'm very disappointed because it's a Labor stronghold, or supposedly a Labor stronghold. Maybe
But Councillor Barlow, this is not about party politics. No, it's about there's a lot of information out there about giving a voice, and this is something that we're not saying you have to go to the ballot and vote yes.
If you read the
what
report,
we're saying that in order promoting that by supporting yes, this is what what the outcomes are, and giving Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
I'm talking about the fact when you read the report in detail, it says council is actively supporting the yes vote. That's from memory. Now, I have an issue is the fact that we need to put out a yes and a no. The federal government's going to do a yes and a no. Apparently they're going to letterbox drops it to every single household. So, I mean, people still don't understand what's going on, and we, as a council, should be neutral on this. We should be giving everybody the information, and on either side, and be neutral. And so that's why I wrote it's a foreshadowed motion now, and I do believe it's the only way that this council should be going, because it doesn't matter who your local members are. I know they're all Labor. Hopefully we do get a premiere on Saturday, maybe, hopefully, but that doesn't matter. It's a fact of we need to show ourselves responsible to the residents to give them the full information, both sides.
And if I can just add to that, Councillor Barlow, in the actual report, it says while Council's stance will be very clear, you will also have an obligation to make any federally produced information about Voice to Parliament referendum available to our local community.
Okay, so in other words, I will make it very clear I will not be supporting a motion that's telling my residents, yes, you have to vote yes, because I am here, my motion is there being fair.
It's not telling them what to do, it's promoting.
You are telling them what to do by the word.
We're promoting a yes vote. That's not telling it, we're promoting it and then they make a choice.
Yeah, I don't. Oh no, they've agreed with within the federal, they've all agreed together. I heard at 3 o'clock this
Councillor
afternoon.
Werner.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that there's a big difference between supporting the yes vote and telling people they have to vote a certain way. The council can't tell anyone how to vote.
All right, so hang.
Okay.
Councillor Saranowski, then Councillor McDougall, then Councillor Douglas.
Mayor, what I'm about to say is, in general terms on other issues, what Councillor Barlow said is spot on. But this issue, what it is, it's pretty clear cut. It gives the rights of the Indigenous people and the First Nation people, but that's what's going to, at the end of the day, this referendum is going to be to acknowledge them, to set up an advisory body to advise the government. Now, who would oppose that? No, but well, I don't know. It's up to the federal government. But who is going to oppose that? Where we're acknowledging the Indigenous or the First Nation people of this country. That's what the yes vote's going to be. That's my understanding is going to be an advisory committee. An advisory committee. No, it's going to be an advisory body that's going to advise to the government. It's an acknowledgement of the First Nation people. No one in their right mind will be voting no against it.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. I've got Councillor McDougall and then Councillor Douglas and Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm more than happy to second and support the committee's recommendation. I think this is a fantastic show of support being shown by Council for a very important issue to our nation. I note that Councillor Hannah doesn't understand enough yet about what the voice to Parliament will be, so I'm more than happy to help educate him. The voice is going to be an independent representative advisory body. It'll take less time than you spoke for, I'm sure, for First Nations people. It will provide a permanent means to advise the Australian Parliament and the government on the views of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on matters that affect them. The voice is a body that will provide independent advice to Parliament and government, be chosen by First Nations people based on the wishes of local communities, be representative of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, be empowering, community-led, inclusive, respectful, culturally informed and gender balanced, and include youth. I'm always happy to see youth included, particularly sitting around this chamber. It will be accountable and transparent, and it will work alongside existing organisations and traditional structures. It's not going to have a program delivery function or a veto power. The structure and role, I absolutely do. That's why I'm reading it to you. I'm doing you a service. The structure and role of the voice is going to be decided by the Parliament through legislation, with members chosen by First Nations people. What is being proposed is a very high-level statement in the Constitution. It doesn't say how exactly it will be structured, what exactly it will do. It's a principle. Now, I don't think you need all the detail to support a constitutional amendment. If you came up to me in the year 1900 and said, "Oh, I'm not going to vote for free and fair elections until you show me the Electoral Act," I'd hope that you'd be laughed out of the room. This is an important step forward for our nation. As far as council support for this, yes, I'm sure there will be yes and no material, and people can access that. But we have a stance here. Council is not neutral on reconciliation. Multiple times in council, we have unanimously endorsed our support for the voice as a body. We recently signed up to our first reconciliation and action plan, and it says our vision is to create a future built on respect, understanding and empowerment. Walking together with our First Nations people, we will begin our healing journey through truth-telling, listening, acknowledging the past and embracing our rich cultural history. And what do we do to do those things? Well, the First Nations people of this country have asked for a voice. So how do we walk together? How do we begin our healing journey? How do we truth tell? How do we listen? How do we acknowledge the past? How do we not just have our last few hundred years of Australian history, but 40,000 years of one of the oldest cultures on earth as part of our country? This is a step towards that. So I fully support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall,
Thanks,
for that
Ed.
explanation. Councillor Douglas.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were just witnessed Councillor McDougall reading from the website that explains the voice to Parliament. I think it's within all of our remit to do a bit of research on an issue so important. that we can make up a decision ourselves about these issues. I think also you've referred to the reconciliation plan that we've adopted, that I'm very proud we have adopted, and it specifically lays out that we will engage in positive community campaigning on First Nations solidarity, on First Nations justice, as much as we can. We are on the land of the Gadigal and the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. This was the site of first contact in Australia. I want us to acknowledge that more, not less. I want us to honour those people. I want them to know that we are on a healing journey with them, that we are sorry and that we respect them, and that we are going to show the rest of the community that we are solidly behind acknowledging their right to be part of this constitution, to have a voice to Parliament. So I think that if we were to actually turn our back on them in this moment, the consequences are greater than are being acknowledged here. What is the consequence of turning our back on our First Nations people? The consequence is that they feel more hurt for hundreds more years, that intergenerationally it leads to suffering. It's beyond me that we should consider not supporting this in this day and age when we have access to Google, where we have access to information at our fingertips at any given moment. We all, as councillors, have the opportunities to educate ourselves on these things. And so I don't think we can turn up here and say we don't have enough information. There is so much information out there on websites about this issue. I've looked into it. I've read numerous articles from different news sources on a weekly basis to inform myself about this discussion because it's important to our community. So I think we just have to drop the excuses that we don't know enough. We all have the opportunity to educate ourselves, and now we have the opportunity to educate the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas.
Oh, I don't
Can I just add, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Councillor.
I cannot believe that this has been pulled out and we're discussing potentially not supporting this. It's such old school thinking. You know, in 1966, Aboriginal people were not counted as people in Australia. We're now there's no other, they haven't had a voice in the Constitution since then. It was in 1967 that they actually counted as people in their own lands. So the fact, what old school thinking is being talked about on the floor here, that we may do this, we may do, oh, absolutely. We're not telling people to vote. We're saying, as a council, we support our Aboriginal people. We're on their land. Their land has never been ceded, right? So why are we standing up here even thinking about, oh, well, we're not going to tell them this? Like, absolutely, we have to support our Aboriginal people to have a voice in Parliament. I can't believe this has taken so long just to get through. When it's been to the committee, everyone's read about it. And I can't believe there's this old school thinking from the 40s and 50s here that, oh, yes, well, we have to, we have to be neutral. We have to give people a choice. That's just a load of rubbish in my view. Like, we've had enough on it. I just move now that this motion be put and we deal with it, please.
Thank you. We've moved that the motion be put. Therefore, I put the original motion, which was endorsed by the committee. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, we've called a division. Seconder for a division. All right, so we'll go around the room. So it's the original motion from committee. Councillor Morrissey.
For.
Councillor Muscat. All those, we've had the motion to be put. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Okay, we'll now continue around the room. So Councillor Morrissey.
Waste of time that was, really.
Councillor Morrissey was for the original recommendation. Councillor Muscat. So Councillor Morrissey for. Councillor Muscat
Yes.
for. Councillor Fidel for. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Naji. Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas. Councillor McDougall. Councillor Cedric. And I'm for as well. So I declare that carried. Thank you.
Can I, because I can't see, can I ask who voted against that, please?
We had two councillors abstain, and that was Councillor Barlow and Councillor Hannah.
Oh, that's courage, yeah. Abstain. That's a no vote.
Thank you.
The
All
true
right.
independent.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. All right, that takes us. That takes us to. Come on, we're on the clock. 11 point. Councillor Sedrak, 11.3. Minutes of the City Planning and Environment Committee. So we have to pull up the third item there, which is CPE 23006, because it's a draft planning proposal based on our heritage conservation areas. So we'll just call division. So that was in committee, that was endorsed, the recommendation by committee. So if we can pull up the So that's it there, that it be updated to include the heritage consultant and then a range of other things there. So moved, Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Werner. Do we, all right, so because it's a planning matter, can we have the division table, please?
Just for you, just clarification, I can't see in the report, has anything mentioned about changes for conservative, for heritage for Lansdowne Street, Bardwell Valley? Is it possible?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Thank you for checking. All right, so so for the committee recommendation, Councillor Morrissey,
4.
Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fadell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah. It's your favourite topic. Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Sedrak, and I'm for. Well,
I can't hear anything.
We'll just double check.
Is someone talking?
We're just double checking the original report on the heritage conservation zones.
Okay.
Just going
Okay,
through,
thank you.
checking which street is included.
Sure.
Oh, and my mum. Sorry. We're dealing with the same rec. Sorry, my apologies. We're dealing with the same committee recommendation. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Naji had to declare a interest and step out, so we just have to do the division again, please. So Councillor Morrissey,
For.
Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Jansen, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Cedric, Mayor is for. Declare that carried. Thank you. All right, councillors, this now takes us to in 11.3, the minutes of the City Planning Environment Committee. This takes us to CPE 23008. I need to vacate the chairs. I've declared an interest. As the Deputy Mayor is online, he prefers not to chair the meeting. So Council's Code of Meeting Practice requires those councillors present to elect a chair for this item. I now hand you over to the General Manager who will manage the election process.
No, it won't be a secret ballot. And Councillor Awadi, you're also leaving the chamber. All right, councillors. So as a result of the chair being vacant, we do need to vote to elect a chair for this item. So prior to calling for nominations, I'll just let you know it's going to be open vote by show of hands. If we only have one councillor, then obviously we don't need to have a vote. Can I call for nominations for a councillor to chair this item of the business paper? Councillor Fidel? So sorry, Councillor Fidel, you're nominating Councillor McDougall. Councillor McDougall, you're accepting? Councillor Naji, do you accept the nomination? You're saying no? So I have one councillor who's accepted nomination. Can I take that as done deal?
Done.
Councillor Morrissey?
So I just say done. Let's move on.
Done.
It's not a big deal.
All right, Councillor McDougall, could you please take the chair for this item?
Councillors, we're dealing with CPE 23.008. Do I have a mover and seconder?
I'll move it.
Move Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Hannah.
I did have an amendment to this. It was just an addition, number 10. If I could just get that considered, if it's possible.
Can we just put, I've got an amendment, Councillor Hannah, as well.
Well,
if you wanted to second that and see what one.
You know, until we say whether people agree with each other's amendments, maybe somebody else should second it. Seconded Councillor Jansen.
Thank you.
Councillor Morrissey.
Thanks. It should be up on the screen. Governance has the amendment. It's an addition to point 2. Just let me know if it's on the screen.
Yeah, we can see that, Councillor Morrissey.
Okay, so it's just simply reiterating to the audience that this is not. Well, to read it out, the provision of parking to satisfy the rates in Table 3. Table 3 is the parking rates that we've talked about. Must not be at expense of providing landscaped area in accordance with Part 371, which is all the landscaping requirements. So there was discussion around parking being taken preference over landscaping. This is not the intention is not to have parking in lieu of landscaping. It's not either or, it is both. So while we are seeking to increase the parking rates, to get more cars off the street and make for a safer environment. That does not remove the need for the very robust, in my view, landscaping requirements that our planners have to follow. And it's just, although it's already in there, this standalone paragraph on that particular page, which is page 51, will make it very clear to developers, builders, and the audience, people who are building in our area, that landscaping is very, it can't be sacrificed. Just, oh, we've got to put extra parking in, so we're not going to put this landscaping. That's not the case, and I'm sure that our director will make sure that planners, adhere to this.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Acting
Well,
Mayor.
I don't think they've seen the other, well, I assume Councillor Morrissey accepts the amendment. Councillor Jansen? Yeah. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Acting Chair. Look, I've just used this report and recommendation as a vehicle just to tag this on. Now, this in no way affects everything that's gone before at points 1 to 9, but I have had representations made to me about the Bexley Town Centre Master Plan, which is apparently now 2 decades old. So what I'd like to do is just raise that as part of this recommendation. It's not going to knock anything else out, and it's not going to change the priority of the workload for the master plans that are currently being worked on. So I realise that this will take quite some time. So what I'm saying is that subject to council completing its currently adopted group of town centre master plans, council then commenced the process of reviewing and updating the Bexley Town Centre Master Plan in consultation with the relevant stakeholders, including the Bexley Chamber of Commerce. So this is not going to jump in front of any other work that's scheduled. It's not going to jump in front of anything else that we've got scheduled regarding master plans. It's just to get it on the radar so that when the cycle comes around, we can actually get something moving, because it is 20 years old and the centre is going through redevelopment at the moment. There's new buildings going up, so I think it's timely at some point to look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Morrissey, do you accept the amendment?
Can I just ask the director if I support the sentiment, Councillor Hannah, but Mr. Barber, if you can just clarify, is it appropriate to add that in here or should that just come as a separate motion maybe at our next meeting? I'm supported, I understand it. I just want to make sure it won't conflict, given that this has been out on exhibition twice, etc. So just your guidance there.
Through you, Chair. So you're correct, it doesn't change anything that's in the DCP. It is an add-on, I guess, to the resolution. Just in terms of where it sits in our work program, the local strategic planning statement is our primary guiding document for how we move through looking at different locations. Bexley's identified in that plan to be investigated in a 10+ years time horizon, and to coincide really with plans for the metro link between Parramatta and Cogra. So there are other locations identified that have a priority in the 1 to 5 and 5 to 10 year time horizons, and so Bexley's after those. So by that motion, it would be some time before we got to Bexley, but that's something that we can manage, I think.
But it's okay to have it here. It's not going to confuse or confuse anybody or get lost, I suppose.
I guess my interpretation of that is that it doesn't seek to change the order in which we're going to investigate town centres.
Sure.
Council's already adopted that through its LSPS and housing strategy, so this doesn't read to me as if it's changing that priority. It's just sort of bringing some attention to it.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I accept the amendment then as well.
I don't know, I hate to be a pedant, but I think Councillor Morrissey makes a good point. I fully agree with the principle of motion, but maybe if we could get an opinion from the manager of governance, whether, in his opinion, this relates to the matter in the motion.
Can you go to a mic, please?
And maybe just for clarification, I'm reading that amendment to a motion must relate to the matter being dealt with in the original motion. Or is it, sorry, is it part of the DCP or is it in the LSPS?
Yeah, the master plan is sort of embedded in the controls of the DCP.
On that basis, then it is related to the motion for council.
Excellent. Councillor Jansen, are you happy with the amendment? Yeah, great. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Naji?
Just again, to the director, Mr. Rowan, is this will affect the Arncliffe Shopping Centre with the properties and amalgamating?
Through your chair, as I understand it, this relates to the Bexley Town Centre, as in on Forest Road and Stony Creek Road and in that vicinity, so it wouldn't go as far as Arncliffe.
Okay.
Councillors, any further speakers? Being no further speakers, put the motion. I see no right of reply. Councillor Morrissey?
No, I'm all good, thanks.
I think this needs to be done by way of division.
Dave, due to number 10, in case it gets through, I'll declare an interest and I'll leave the chamber.
We've said it definitely doesn't cover Arncliffe from the General Manager.
Yeah, definitely doesn't.
All right, do we have a division? Let me get that up on the screen. All those in favour, Councillor Morrissey.
For.
Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fardell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Cernus, Councillor Werner, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor Cedrak, and myself, Paul. Declare the motion carried. Someone want to go and get Councillor Curry?
Thank you, councillors. This takes us to the last two agenda items. So we have 12.1, Notice of Motion Still Gardening Program, moved by Councillor Douglas and second by Councillor Barlow. Even though you have a conflict. Did you want to speak to it?
Just briefly, because I know we're all tired. I was privileged to make a documentary series about this program in Tasmania about 10 years or so ago that the City Council runs down there, and it shows, it's a testament to the program that it's still running a long time later. And it really, you know, when you're a documentary filmmaker, you get to go and interview people and you get to hear their stories firsthand. And I got to hear the stories firsthand of both the elderly people and their buddies that they got teamed up with, as well as the people with disability and their buddies that they get teamed up with. And it was a beautiful community program that enriched both the lives of the volunteers, the buddies themselves, who were people who might have lost a grandmother or a grandfather and didn't have that elderly person in their life anymore, and also enabled that elderly person to stay in their home for longer. I think some of you know I lost my grandmother at the end of last year, and she was 90, almost 97, and still living in her own home independently. And I think having that independence enables us to keep good mental health and good physical health. And this program identified the fact that often it's gardens that become the thing that worries elderly people because they can't maintain them anymore, and it's what leads them to have to give up their independent home. So I'd love the council to consider what the motion put before us is for the council to investigate the Still Garden program funded by the Australian Government Department of Health and report back to the relevant committee on the outcome of the investigation, including whether it may be implemented in our local community, and if so, how.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
I'll just make a comment that when Heidi showed, I was really quite excited about it because I have a neighbour who's 80, but she has 3 sons, but not one of them lives, one's in Victoria, one's in Western Australia, one's in England. So she always finds it hard to find someone to move the pots. She does everything, I sometimes have to help, but it's the fact of, it's great. And then I thought of Wingate. I thought maybe it's a program they could look at. I mean, they've got their growability program, but this is more about someone being there to talk to someone. That's what it's all about. So, anyway, I just encourage that.
Thank you,
Hopefully we can come
Barlow.
there.
All right, we're on the clock.
Sorry,
before
I'm
we
just
get
going to
extension.
say I'm in support of this program, but just wanted to ask through you, Chair, whether Councillor Douglas knows which arm of the government, you said it's Department of Health, which arm of the government specifically funds it, or the name of the program that funds it? I don't know. Surely that'll come out in the investigation, but just...
You know?
I did research into how it was funded through the Hobart City Council website, and it just declared it was funded by the Australian Government Department of Health. So I didn't look into it further than that. I figured that council could do that research as part of the report, but it must be ongoing funding that's available as soon as the program's been running for that duration of time.
Excellent. All right. I think Councillor Werner was next. Sorry.
Thank you. I think this is an excellent motion. My grandmother also gardened until well into her 90s, and I think probably having a garden and being able to garden is what probably kept her alive for so long. And I think if we can do anything to support that, I think we should. So this is an excellent motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah.
I can dig it.
All right. All right. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. That takes us to notice of motion, Gardens for Wildlife. Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Jansen. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Again, I'll be brief. I was lucky enough to spend some time in Tasmania, where I used to live over the summer, and I met one of the ladies who actually set up this program, and that's kind of what got me thinking. I was like, oh, somebody sets these programs up. Because when I lived in Hobart, I had a garden for wildlife, and it's a fantastic program where you get educated and you get access to native species that are relevant to your neighbourhood. And if you go for a walk around Hobart, there's these little Garden for Wildlife signs out the front of so many houses, a bit like the old Neighbourhood Watch program. And so it becomes a signal to people around you that these are the values that you have, and that you're actively working to green your suburb in your little patch. And council provides that guidance. And I know council have done great work on this before. We, prior to being elected, my husband picked up some of the plants that council were donating to the community to enable small birds in your garden, and it certainly has helped our garden. It's actually transformed our garden. We now have blue-tongued lizards, we have insects. You know, it's a great delight when you live in the city to have those animals around you. But doing further research into this program, I didn't realise how widely spread it was. It's been adopted in the Sunshine Coast, but also all across Victoria as well. So that was why I'm bringing it to council today, for council to investigate the potential of creating a program like Gardens for Wildlife for the Bayside local government area, and to bring that report back to the relevant committee within 3 months, outlining if such a program can be replicated in Bayside.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. No other.
Just quickly, Councillor Douglas did mention that council have recently, previously given out little kits of habitat for birds, and council does give out a lot of native trees and species, whether they could be repackaged in different branding around Gardens for Wildlife.
We can add that
Just
to the
quickly,
report.
the Fix-It Sisters have got their gardens through.
Yeah.
We had a bush care Tuesday, but I couldn't make it. But they make bird boxes and whatever. And I think it's interesting because it's little plants, and they could go into your verge gardens as well. So it'd be good to encourage something and help the nursery.
Excellent. All right. We have a motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. We now have the, are there any questions with notice? So we have questions with notice. What I might just get you to do is put it in writing to governance, if that's okay. If you put yours in writing to governance, that'd be great. No, anyone else? So we've got 2 questions with notice. All right. Thank you, councillors. I declare the meeting closed at 10:49 p.m.